Peter Benjamin Parker, a former student of Midtown School of Science and Technology, acquired superhuman abilities and assumed the role of the superhero Spider-Man, combating crime throughout New York City. Struggling to balance his hero responsibilities with the challenges of high school, Parker found himself drawn into the Avengers Civil War by Tony Stark. This involvement led to a brief clash with Captain America. Stark rewarded Parker with a new suit and advanced technology, allowing him to retain them upon returning home to pursue his solo hero endeavors. Determined to prove himself as a hero, he battled Vulture's criminal activities with his friend Ned while juggling academic decathlon finals and a blossoming romance with Liz Allen. After declining an offer to join the Avengers, he is drawn into conflict with Thanos, resulting in devastating losses. Resurrected during the blip, he faced grief and trauma, but reluctantly aided Nick Fury and Mysterio in Europe, only to discover Mysterio's deception. Returning to New York, Parker's identity was exposed, leading to chaos and tragedy. Seeking to protect his loved ones, he enlisted Doctor Strange's help and inadvertently caused a multiversal crisis. With the help of alternate versions of himself, Parker confronted his demons and sacrificed his own memory to safeguard the multiverse, choosing isolation to keep others safe while continuing his role as Spider-Man. Welcome back to Cinematica. Today we're going to be breaking down the life and times of Spider-Man, the MCU version for now. Before we get started, make sure you like the video and subscribe for more like this. Alright, let's get this timeline up and running. Early life. Growing up in New York. Peter Benjamin Parker entered the world on August 10, 2001 in Queens, New York City. His parents became disengaged from his life during his early years, leading the young Parker to be nurtured by his caring Aunt May Parker and Uncle Ben Parker, the latter of whom passed away in his later years. Battle at Stark Expo. In the year 2010, Parker attended the Stark Expo, where he obtained miniature replicas of the Iron Man helmet and glove, along with Tony Stark's signature. During his subsequent visit, hammer drones dispatched by Ivan Vanko initiated an attack on the expo, compelling Stark, the event's host, to engage them as Iron Man. A drone landed in front of Parker, who defiantly raised his hand and aimed his toy repulsor at the approaching threat. Iron Man promptly appeared and obliterated the drone, expressing gratitude to Parker for his assistance before soaring away to resume his battle, leaving Parker in awe. Becoming Spider-Man. During his adolescent years, Parker enrolled at Midtown School of Science and Technology, forming a close friendship with fellow student Ned Leeds and becoming the subject of bullying by Flash Thompson. Parker also got to know Michelle Jones, who frequently teased him, and harbored a crush on Liz Allen, a well-liked classmate. In the latter part of 2015, at the age of 14, Parker was bitten by a spider, gaining superhuman abilities such as strength and speed proportional to a spider, along with a remarkable capacity to cling to walls. Determined to utilize his powers for the greater good, Parker created his own artificial web fluid and web shooters. He deployed these tools while confronting wrongdoers in New York City, adopting the persona of the masked hero Spider-Man. In order to safeguard his identity, Parker led a modest lifestyle, abstaining from activities such as joining the football team and adhering to his pre-superhero routines. Internet sensation. Embarking on his journey as a vigilante and aspiring superhero, Spider-Man drew the interest of multiple news organizations and journalists. Bystanders captured footage of his heroic actions, including apprehending a thief and preventing a speeding car from colliding with a bus, and shared these videos on platforms like YouTube and other video hosting sites. Tony Stark came across the YouTube video featuring Spider-Man saving the bus, leading to him to uncover the masked hero's identity and investigate his activities. Avengers Civil War. In 2016, upon returning home from school, Parker exchanged greetings with his Aunt May and mentioned the presence of a crazy car parked near the apartment building. To his astonishment, he found Tony Stark, his ultimate idol, in the living room, rendering him momentarily speechless. Stark surprised Parker by informing Aunt May that Stark Industries intended to award him a substantial grant, citing Parker's prior enrollment, which Parker had not done. During a private discussion in Parker's room, Stark presented footage of Spider-Man apprehending criminals and halting speeding cars with apparent ease. In a light-hearted manner, Stark pondered whether the masked figure could be Parker, leading to an awkward denial from Parker, who insisted that all the footage had been manipulated. Persistently asserting that the video was a computer-generated fabrication, Parker's facade crumbled when Stark uncovered the makeshift costume he used, concealed in a loft space. Faced with the undeniable evidence, Parker reluctantly confessed to being Spider-Man for the past 6 months. Despite mocking Parker for his budget-friendly attire, Stark expressed admiration for the remarkable tensile strength of his web fluid and inquired about its creator, only to learn that Parker had concocted it himself. Defending his costume's goggle design when Stark ridiculed it, Parker explained that they aided in focusing his enhanced senses. When questioned about his motivation to become Spider-Man, Parker offered a vague explanation about feeling compelled to prevent wrongdoing. Stark invited him to join a mission in Germany to confront Captain America, but Parker cited excessive homework as his reason for declining participation. Disregarding Parker's refusal, Stark insisted that the mission carried risks and decided to inform May about taking Parker on a field trip. In a moment of overreaction, Parker used his web shooters to immobilize Stark's hand near the doorknob, commanding him not to divulge the secret to May. Though Stark acquiesced, a brief silence ensued before he requested to be released from the webbing. Embarrassed, Parker awkwardly freed Stark's hand, allowing him to leave as they eventually headed to Germany. New Spider Suit. Accompanied by Happy Hogan, Parker boarded the Stark Industries private jet en route to Germany. During the drive, Hogan reminded Parker not to share the video he was making during the trip. Attempting to engage in conversation, Parker inquired about the origin of Hogan's nickname Happy, only to be ignored for the remainder of the journey to the airport, leaving Hogan visibly irritated. Upon reaching the jet, Parker marveled at its impressive features, including the absence of pilots and the presence of onboard bathrooms. Seated, Parker's evident awkwardness puzzled Hogan, who took note of Parker's lack of prior airplane experience and his decision to sit directly across from him, mentioning that Parker had never ventured beyond New York City. While Hogan dozed off during the flight, Parker playfully recorded him, startling Hogan awake. Upon their arrival in Berlin, Parker found himself exploring the city, documenting his experiences through video logs despite his uncertainty about the purpose of his presence. He had been informed that Captain America had apparently gone rogue, prompting Iron Man to seek his assistance. Upon reaching the hotel, Hogan assigned Parker a room right next to his own, much to Parker's delight and Hogan's irritation. With little time to spare, Parker was instructed to don his suit for the impending mission. He geared up in his original costume, warming up by filming himself in the mirror. To his surprise, Hogan entered the room and questioned why he wasn't wearing the suit Stark provided. Confused, Parker realized he hadn't received anything from Stark in the hotel. Unaware of the existence of the new suit, Parker eventually discovered a suitcase in another part of his room. Opening it revealed the upgraded Spider-Man suit, specially designed for him by Stark. Rendered speechless, Parker donned the new suit, and alongside an impatient Hogan headed to the Leipzig-Halle airport. Despite Hogan's lack of patience for Parker's excitement, he continued filming his reaction to the upgraded spider suit. Clash of the Avengers. As he awaited Iron Man's signal to enter the fray, Spider-Man covertly recorded and briefly narrated the confrontation from a discreet vantage point. His camera captured the thrilling presence of Iron Man and other Avengers engaged in the standoff. Puzzled by the identity of Black Panther, who stood alongside the Avengers, Spider-Man pondered this while Iron Man eventually signaled him to reveal himself, sparking his immense excitement. Swiftly stashing his phone, Spider-Man swung into action at the standoff, using his webbing to disarm Captain America of his shield and bind Roger's hands together. Gracefully landing on a tug, he greeted everyone casually, only to be momentarily distracted by the presence of the Avengers, his idols, much to Iron Man's annoyance. Iron Man instructed Spider-Man to cease talking and focus on the mission. After saluting Captain America, Spider-Man observed the ongoing dispute between Iron Man and Captain America over the Sokovia Accords, ensuring Captain America remained disadvantaged by retaining the shield. Unexpectedly, Ant-Man surprised Spider-Man by sneaking onto the shield and kicking it back to Captain America. As the Avengers clashed, Spider-Man sought guidance from Iron Man on his role in the conflict. Iron Man instructed him to maintain distance and utilize his web shooters against Captain America and his allies, emphasizing the avoidance of harm to both sides during the confrontation with the Avengers. Subsequently, Spider-Man pursued Falcon and Bucky Barnes within the airport terminal building, scaling and crawling along the outside windows, perplexing both heroes. Bursting through the glass, he delivered a powerful kick to knock Falcon to the ground and intervened to block Barnes' punch. However, Spider-Man became captivated by Barnes' metal arm, praising its awesomeness, leaving Barnes bewildered by the comment. In the midst of his distraction with Barnes' metal arm, Falcon seized the opportunity to tackle Spider-Man, taking their scuffle into the air. Despite Spider-Man's insistence that he could somehow apprehend Falcon, they continued their mid-air wrestling. While swinging through the airport terminal in pursuit of Falcon, Spider-Man sensed an incoming object thrown by Barnes, narrowly dodging it and returning the throw. Spider-Man utilized his webbing to inflict damage on the X-07 Falcon, forcing a crash landing. Spider-Man proceeded to web Falcon to hand railings in the terminal building, but became captivated, this time by Falcon's wingsuit. Speculating on its construction, Spider-Man rambled about the possible use of carbon fiber in the wingsuit, much to Falcon's irritation, who noted Spider-Man should talk less. As Barnes attempted to intervene, Spider-Man skillfully trapped both him and Falcon in his webbing, causing them to tumble to the ground floor below and momentarily removing them from the fight. In the aftermath, as Spider-Man began apologizing for their altercation, he was unexpectedly snatched away by Red Wing, its grappling line attached to his leg, pulling him through a window and dropping him outside. Falcon and Barnes managed to escape the webbing in Spider-Man's absence. Unperturbed by his prior encounter, Spider-Man rejoined his teammates, aligning against Captain America's team in a brief standoff. Vision attempted to separate the teams with a powerful beam emitted from the Mind Stone. Despite Spider-Man initially assuming that Captain America's team might yield, Iron Man asserted that they were not backing down either, and both teams charged. In the heat of battle, Spider-Man briefly clashed with Wanda Maximoff, deploying his web shooters against her while skillfully evading the cars she hurled in return. He also dodged Hawkeye's array of trick arrows before Hawkeye redirected his focus to Black Widow. Spider-Man swung across the airport, avoiding Maximoff's attacks and attempting to aid Iron Man in the confrontation, fighting Captain America. Swinging across the airport, Spider-Man observed Wanda Maximoff rescuing Bucky Barnes from Black Panther before Captain America intervened by severing Spider-Man's webbing with his shield, bringing him to the ground. Despite the skirmish, there was a mutual expression of respect between the two, with Captain America inquiring about Iron Man's remarks. Spider-Man conveyed to Captain America that Iron Man believed he was misguided on the Sokovia Accords, deeming him a threat. Detailing Iron Man's advice to target Captain America's legs, Spider-Man successfully tripped him with his web shooters, dragging him along the ground before delivering a kick. Despite Spider-Man's attempts to subdue Captain America by webbing his arms, the super soldier resisted. In a swift move, Captain America broke free from Spider-Man's grasp, throwing him aside. Undeterred, Spider-Man persisted in using his webs to subdue Captain America. However, Captain America managed to yank one of his webs, hurling Spider-Man towards him before delivering a powerful blow across his face with his shield. This forced Spider-Man to retreat by leaping back, all while Captain America continued questioning what Iron Man had disclosed about him. In an attempt to conclude the skirmish, Captain America utilized his shield to compromise the support beams of a platform, causing it to collapse and compelling Spider-Man to support its weight. Captain America, impressed by Spider-Man's strength and sincerity, retrieved his shield and readied himself to return to the ongoing battle. Curious about Spider-Man's origins, Captain America inquired about his hometown. Spider-Man disclosed he was from Queens, while Captain America, hailing from Brooklyn, left the determined hero behind, taking down Giant Man. After wrapping up the skirmish with Captain America, Spider-Man resumed filming with his phone, recounting the events of the confrontation, including how he temporarily seized Captain America's shield. However, as he narrated to the camera, Spider-Man was taken aback when he witnessed Ant-Man undergoing a transformation into his giant form. In midair, Ant-Man grabbed the hold of War Machine's leg, briefly halting the ongoing battle. In sheer disbelief, Spider-Man exclaimed an expletive at the extraordinary sight before him. Recognizing the need to assist his team in battling Giant Man, Spider-Man placed his phone on the ground and expressed astonishment at the colossal sight of Giant Man towering over them. When Giant Man hurled War Machine across the airport, risking a collision with a parked aircraft, Spider-Man intervened. Using his webs, he fired at War Machine, pulling him away from the aircraft and swinging him to safety. Amidst the chaos, Captain America and Bucky Barnes seized the opportunity to attempt an escape by pilfering a Quinjet from a nearby hangar. Unaware that this was a diversion, Spider-Man, along with War Machine and Vision, continued the fight against Giant Man. Spider-Man, attached to War Machine's armor with his webbing, swung up and affixed his web to Giant Man's arm, utilizing momentum to deliver a kick. Scaling up Giant Man's colossal form, Spider-Man attempted to distract him by pressing against his goggles. However, he was forcefully thrown off when Giant Man swatted him away with his gargantuan hand. Towards the climax of their battle, Spider-Man drew inspiration from The Empire Strikes Back, and devised a strategy to defeat Giant Man, prompting a brief realization from War Machine about Spider-Man's youthfulness. Executing his plan, Spider-Man used his web shooters to web up Giant Man's knees, causing him to lose balance. Seizing the opportunity, War Machine and Iron Man flew at full speed, delivering a powerful strike to Giant Man's helmet. The colossal opponent toppled over, inadvertently sending Spider-Man into a pile of wooden boxes and rendering him briefly unconscious on the battlefield, while the fight continued elsewhere. Post-battle, Iron Man, acknowledging Spider-Man's exhaustion with his mask partially dislodged, urged him to go home, even threatening to call May Parker if he resisted. Feeling he had disappointed Iron Man, Spider-Man desperately tried to convince him that he should continue fighting. Eventually, he reluctantly agreed, and as Iron Man flew off to pursue Captain America, Spider-Man admitted his fatigue, lying utterly exhausted on the floor from the intense battle. Keeping the suit. Upon returning to his hotel room, Parker excitedly recorded a video recounting the events of the Clash of the Avengers. He enthusiastically detailed how Iron Man had summoned him to the battle, leading to him taking Captain America's shield and becoming embroiled in the conflict. Before he could continue, Parker was interrupted by the arrival of Happy Hogan, who knocked on the door and pointed out that he could hear Parker through the thin walls. Restless and unable to sleep, Parker donned the Spider-Man suit and exited his hotel room via a window. Navigating the rooftops, he swiftly traversed Berlin until reaching a nightclub. Documenting the entire experience in his vlog, Spider-Man mingled with the partygoers, taking pictures and using his web shooters to swing around with female guests, fully embracing the celebratory atmosphere. Spider-Man continued reveling in the party before discreetly returning to the hotel. Parker also purchased and watched an adult video through the hotel's pay-per-view system that night. The following morning, Parker had breakfast and experienced some flirtation with a waitress. Hogan, however, questioned whether he'd been out as Spider-Man. Displaying his lack of approval, Hogan shoved a German newspaper in his face. The newspaper featured a photo of Spider-Man saving the Berlin Chancellor, and the German media had dubbed him the Amazing Sticky Boy. Upon their return from Germany, Hogan chauffeured Parker and Tony Stark to Parker's apartment in New York City. With his camera rolling, Parker captured Stark, commending him for his impressive performance during the internship at Stark Industries. Despite the positive acknowledgement, Stark couldn't resist making suggestive remarks about Aunt May while being filmed. Upon reaching home, Stark informed Parker that he could retain the Spider-Man suit, with Hogan assigned to keep a watchful eye on him. Following Stark's advice on how to operate as Spider-Man, Parker returned to his normal life. Returning home, Parker rested in his bedroom, while May provided him with an ice bag for the black eye he had acquired during the battle when Captain America struck him hard across the face. When May inquired about the injury, Parker casually mentioned a Brooklyn man named Steve and his formidable friend. Jokingly, May asked about his performance in the fight, expressing hope that he stood up for himself. Parker reassured his aunt, confirming that he managed to land a few punches. After May left the room, Parker continued to examine his new web shooters, courtesy of Stark Industries. Accidentally activating a hidden button, a bright red beam emitted from the web shooter on his right wrist, projecting the spider signal onto the ceiling. Parker was surprised and delighted, contemplating the promising future as Spider-Man with Stark's support behind him. Back to daily life. 2 months after the Avengers Civil War, Parker resumed his routine as a high school student at the Midtown School of Science and Technology. Eager to prove his worth, he persistently attempted to reconnect with Happy Hogan for another mission with the Avengers, only to be met with unresponsiveness. Arriving at Midtown after taking the train from New York City, Parker unintentionally crossed paths with Flash Thompson, who was driving his father's pricey sports car. Thompson, in his customary manner, mocked Parker as Penis Parker, but Parker brushed off the insult. Navigating through the crowd of students, Parker made his way to his locker, stowing away his jacket and preparing for the school day. Prior to the start of classes, Parker met with his best friend Ned Leeds, who invited him to collaborate on building a new Lego Death Star. Despite his excitement, Parker declined, citing his internship at Stark Industries scheduled for that evening. While Leeds was somewhat disappointed, Parker expressed optimism that the internship could lead to a genuine job with Tony Stark. Distracted by the passing Liz Allen, Parker suggested Leeds come over later to work on the Death Star after he made some progress on it. In physics class, Parker reviewed clips of himself as Spider-Man, attempting to gauge the public's perception of his heroic deeds. Monica Warren noticed his lack of attention, and as Thompson failed to answer her question about determining linear acceleration on a pendulum swing, she invited Parker to try. Parker effortlessly solved the problem, his web-slinging experiences giving him an innate understanding of the concept. Warren complimented him, leading Thompson to attempt to intimidate Parker. Monitoring the clock throughout the day, Parker later attended Cobwell's lab, delving into Niels Bohr's discoveries on quantum theory. Finishing his lab early, Parker focused on upgrading his web fluid for the web shooters. Secretly mixing chemicals in a hidden drawer, he realized the fluid was forming too rapidly, causing it to overflow. Nonchalantly, Parker closed the drawer and continued listening to Cobwell's lecture, all the while keeping an eye on the clock, eagerly anticipating the moment he could leave school and become Spider-Man. During their lunch break, Parker and Leeds continued to observe Allen from a distance in the cafeteria, where she was putting up a banner for the upcoming homecoming dance. Engaging in a discussion about Allen's attire and whether it was new, Michelle Jones interrupted, labeling them both creepy losers. Confused, Parker and Leeds attempted to retort, but Jones calmly asserted that she didn't have any friends and therefore was unaffected by their comments. Convinced that Spider-Man would soon join the Avengers, Parker quit both marching band and the robotics lab to ensure his availability. He informed Roger Harrington that he'd be unavailable for the school's academic decathlon team's nationals, citing his commitment to the Stark internship as a cover for his heroic activities. When Thompson questioned whether Parker had ever met Tony Stark in person, the rest of them, including Allen and Cindy Moon, expressed shock at Parker's decision to quit right before nationals. Post-practice, while dining with his teammates, Parker found himself defending his abrupt decision to quit the decathlon team. Allen emphasized the limited time left before their trip to Washington, D.C. for nationals, highlighting Parker's crucial role as their best player in physics. Despite Parker's attempt to argue that Thompson could replace him, Abe Brown pointed out that everyone on the team preferred Parker. Parker insisted that the decathlon wouldn't have a physics challenge 2 years in a row. Facing annoyance from some decathlon members who threw food at him, Parker continued to apologize as he left the table. Alan followed him down the hallway, expressing understanding of the challenges he faced in balancing his life. She suggested he could still join the team in Washington, emphasizing their reliance on him. Parker, however, maintained he simply didn't have the time, leaving Alan disappointed. Enduring several more classes at Midtown Science School, Parker grew increasingly impatient to leave. Finally, at 2:45, the bell rang, granting Parker the freedom to exit. Rushing through the front doors, he quickly scanned his surroundings to ensure no one was watching before utilizing his Spider-Man powers to leap several feet above the school fence. He then headed back into New York City, ready to embark on his next adventure as Spider-Man. Parker's first stop was Delmar's Deli Grocery, where he exchanged greetings with Delmar and purchased a sandwich and gummy worms for an after-school snack. Delmar inquired about Parker's aunt and complimented May in Spanish. Parker responded in Spanish by asking about Delmar's own daughter. Delmar jokingly threatened to overcharge him for the sandwich, but Parker apologized, persuading him to sell it at the original price. Parker also greeted Murph and paid for the sandwich. Hero duty. Every day after attending Midtown School of Science and Technology, Parker headed to the outskirts of New York City. In a secluded alley, he would conceal his school bag and don the Spider-Man suit. Driven to prove himself as a hero, Spider-Man patrolled the city, actively seeking out situations where he could assist those in need. While swinging across the city in search of trouble, Spider-Man encountered a bicycle thief speeding down the sidewalk. Swiftly taking action, Spider-Man blocked the thief's path and utilized his web shooters to send the criminal airborne, facilitating his arrest by the New York City Police Department. Spider-Man, now in possession of the stolen bicycle, awkwardly searched for its owner but could not locate them. Unable to find the owner, Spider-Man left a note signed as the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. As Spider-Man struggled to find significant crimes to stop with his superpowers, he redirected his efforts towards performing minor acts of kindness on the streets of New York City. One instance involved guiding an elderly woman who had become lost, earning him a churro as a reward. Grateful, Spider-Man later enjoyed the treat. Not all attempts at heroics were successful. In one incident, Spider-Man mistakenly webbed a man trying to enter his car, triggering the car alarm. The man demanded to be freed from the webbing, leading to Spider-Man facing trouble with the neighbors. As the man and Marjorie shouted at him, Spider-Man awkwardly attempted to resolve the situation peacefully. Seeking more excitement and meaning, Parker persistently tried to contact Tony Stark through Happy Hogan, but received continuous silence. Taking a break from his heroics, Parker left a voicemail for Hogan, detailing how he had stopped a bike thief and helped an old lady. He hoped these acts would impress Stark and secure him a spot in the Avengers, allowing him to be a genuine hero and make a significant impact. Bank robbery. Later that night, Spider-Man spotted a small group of thieves attempting to rob an ATM. Building up confidence and determined to prove himself as a hero, Spider-Man confronted the group. Mocking them for donning cheap Avengers masks, he questioned why Tony Stark would be involved in such a crime. The thieves attacked Spider-Man, who effortlessly fought them off while continuing to taunt them as if they were the real Avengers. Engaging in the skirmish, Spider-Man showcased his enhanced abilities and utilized his web shooters to subdue almost all of the robbers. His confidence grew as the fight progressed, with Spider-Man dominating the entire confrontation. However, one of the thugs deployed a highly advanced anti-gravity gun crafted from Chitauri technology, evening the odds and knocking back Spider-Man. The skirmish resulted in the accidental destruction of a nearby shop where Delmar was working. Spider-Man managed to capture the thieves, rescue Delmar and his cat, and then allowed the New York City Police Department and the United States Department of Damage Control to handle the situation. Found by Ned Leeds, Spider-Man returned to the Parker residence, discreetly opening the window into his bedroom and crawling onto the ceiling. He moved stealthily, ensuring Aunt May wouldn't notice him, and closed the window behind him. Taking special care to avoid making any noise, he utilized his web shooters to quietly close the door before changing back into his normal clothes. As Spider-Man relaxed and turned toward his bed, he was surprised to find Ned Leeds inside his room all along. Leeds had witnessed Parker crawling across the ceiling in his Spider-Man suit. Astonished by what he had just seen, Leeds dropped his Death Star Lego set onto the floor. Despite Parker's desperate attempts to deny being Spider-Man, Leeds had already figured it out. After Parker removed the suit and realized he had accidentally invited Leeds over to finish the Lego Death Star, May interrupted them. She informed Parker that they would be dining out tonight as her turkey meatloaf had failed to cook properly. May invited Leeds to join them for Thai food, but Parker claimed that he had another engagement. May then suggested that Parker put on some clothes before they leave. When Leeds questioned if May knew the truth, Parker revealed that nobody but Tony Stark knew. When Parker disclosed that Stark had made the suit for him, Leeds excitedly wondered if he was a member of the Avengers, to which Parker awkwardly claimed that he basically was. Following some more arguing, Parker managed to convince Leeds to keep his Spider-Man activities a secret from May, not wanting to cause any more distress for his aunt after the death of his uncle, which Leeds reluctantly agreed to. As Leeds left, he tried to ask Parker more questions about being Spider-Man, which an overwhelmed Parker promised to answer tomorrow at school. Dinner with Aunt May. Together, Parker and Aunt May went to Prakya Thai. As Parker pondered over recent events, May then questioned him about why he was so distracted and barely touching his food, as larb was his favorite. Parker excused that the internship at Stark Industries was stressing him out. Just then, he noticed an NY1 news broadcast reporting Spider-Man's fight at the robbery of the Queens Community Bank and the destruction of Delmar's Deli Grocery. Parker's attention was brought back to May when she recommended that he never get involved with anything like that, which Parker quickly promised not to. Parker then changed the subject by revealing that he lost his 5th backpack and needed a replacement. They were interrupted by a Thai waiter who offered May dessert on the house, prompting Parker to tease his aunt over the man having a crush on her. Party invitation. Parker tried to resume his daily life with his friend aware of his heroic activities. On the way to school, Parker explained to Ned Leeds how he gained his powers from being bitten by the spider, noting that the spider was now dead. En route, they came across the aftermath of the robbery of the Queens Community Bank, as Parker noted the arrival of the United States Department of Damage Control and Anne-Marie Hogue before they continued towards school. While they sat in their classes, including science and one lecture on the origins of the Sokovia Accords, Leeds continued pestering Parker. He wanted to know how he gained his powers, as well as other trivial matters which soon began to annoy him. As the questions continued, Parker ignored most of them as Leeds asked if he laid eggs, how far he could fire his web shooters, and if he could summon an army of spiders. As they prepared for Coach Andre Wilson's gym class, they were shown a video of Captain America's fitness challenge, as Leeds questioned if Parker had ever met Captain America in person while going out on his missions as Spider-Man. Somewhat pleased with himself and willing to brag for a moment, Parker revealed to Leeds that he had managed to successfully steal Captain America's shield during the Clash of the Avengers, much to Leeds' complete amazement. While continuing their training in the school's gym, doing Captain America's fitness challenge, Leeds still wouldn't stop and questioned if the Avengers had to pay taxes and what Hulk actually smelled like, and if Steve Rogers was cool or like a mean grandpa, until Parker told him to shut up. Leeds still did not stop and instead asked if he could be Parker's man in the chair, giving him assistance during missions, much to Parker's considerable annoyance. Parker and Leeds then overheard Liz Allen talking about her friends Betty Brant, Charles Murphy, and Seymour O'Reilly, during which Allen confessed to harboring a crush on Spider-Man while discussing the Avengers. Leeds then suddenly announced that Parker was friends with Spider-Man and that he would be at Allen's party, annoying Parker. Having endured mockery from Flash, Leeds had then convinced Parker that this was a good chance to get involved with Allen. Liz Allen's party. Later that same evening, Aunt May drove the pair up to the Toombs residence, noting her own love for house parties. While outside the house, May complimented Ned Leeds on his hat while Parker became nervous and suggested going home, only for May to tease him by questioning if he was going through puberty and felt apprehensive about his own body's changes, until Parker finally relented and he and Leeds went to the party. As they arrived, Parker revealed to Leeds that he was indeed wearing the Spider-Man suit beneath his clothing. Entering the house, they saw that Flash Thompson was acting as DJ, while Michelle Jones teased them for coming to the party while denying that she was also attending the party. They were soon greeted by Liz Allen, who expressed her happiness that Parker had come, while Parker complimented her on the party. While Leeds insisted that he needed to dress up and be Spider-Man to impress everyone there, Parker refused and was adamant to be himself, despite Leeds insisting that this would impress nobody. However, after another taunt from Thompson, who mocked Parker for failing to arrive with Spider-Man while still calling him Penis Parker while the crowds laughed, Parker excused himself and donned his costume outside on the Toombs residence's roof in private. Having put on the Spider-Man suit, Parker began practicing how he would arrive at the party and impress everyone, although he began to get cold feet. While on the roof, Parker then spotted a large blue explosion far off in the distance. Wishing to investigate, Spider-Man donned his mask and swung off the roof, only to quickly find himself in the middle of the park with nothing for his web shooters to attach to, forcing Spider-Man to simply run towards the explosion. Conflict with Vulture. Chase of Vulture's crew. In a short span of time, Spider-Man discovered Jackson Bryce engaged in the illegal sale of weapons on the black market, some of which he inferred were the same ones used in the recent Queens Community Bank robbery. Bryce showcased the Ultron blaster gun during the transaction. As Spider-Man observed, the prospective buyer, Aaron Davis, expressed disinterest in such dangerous weapons, preferring a simpler firearm. While Bryce attempted to showcase his black hole grenade set and other items for potential purchase, their exchange was abruptly interrupted by a ringing phone. Ned Leeds had called Spider-Man, inquiring about his location and expecting him back at Liz Allen's party to impress the guests. This unexpected call led Bryce and Schultz to immediately suspect that Davis had set them up, prompting them to aim their guns at him. Spider-Man, determined to protect Davis, intervened and instructed the two criminals to shoot him instead. Herman Schultz willingly complied, utilizing Shocker's gauntlet to deliver a forceful punch to Spider-Man before they tried to make their escape. A pursuit unfolded as Spider-Man utilized his web shooters to attach himself to the thug's van, being dragged along as they attempted to escape, causing havoc in the neighborhood. While Spider-Man was being pulled through the streets, Bryce deployed his weapons from the truck, firing at Spider-Man and inadvertently damaging their own vehicle in the process. Ultimately, Spider-Man collided with a brick post, losing his grip on the truck. Successfully dislodging Spider-Man from the van, Bryce and Schultz tried to flee while Spider-Man resumed the chase, scouring the area once again. Racing through the outskirts of New York City, Spider-Man struggled to navigate with his web shooters, traversing residential areas, inadvertently causing chaos by toppling a treehouse and crashing through a garden shed. His journey led him to land near a girl's tent, prompting loud screams from the startled girls. Continuing to track the van, Spider-Man created more disruption in the neighborhood during his pursuit. Before long, he located the criminal's van and was poised to jump onto it when Vulture unexpectedly appeared, seizing him from behind. Employing his exosuit, Vulture forcefully lifted Spider-Man into the sky, and Spider-Man fought to break free from his new adversary's grip as they ascended higher and higher. In the midst of their confrontation, when Vulture ascended to a considerable height, the emergency parachute of the Spider-Man suit was triggered. The parachute unfurled, catching the wind and enabling Spider-Man to break free from Vulture's grasp, sending him crashing into the lake below. However, the parachute posed a new challenge, impeding his movement and almost drowning him. Suddenly, Iron Man made a timely appearance, swooping in to rescue him. Iron Man successfully pulled Spider-Man out of the lake and onto solid ground, preventing him from drowning. Saved by Iron Man. After rescuing him from a lake, Tony Stark conversed with Parker while he dried off at the nearby playground. Curious about how Stark located him, Parker asked if there was a tracker in the Spider-Man suit. Stark admitted to having a tracker along with other advanced features, including a heater to aid in drying off after the near-drowning incident. Spider-Man suggested involving the Avengers to deal with Vulture's crew, but Iron Man insisted that the situation was not within their scope. Despite Parker's insistence that Stark didn't need to personally come to his aid, Stark revealed that he was remotely controlling the Mark 47 armor from India. Iron Man advised Spider-Man to focus on protecting New York City from muggers instead of investigating the Vulture. Spider-Man argued his readiness for bigger challenges, citing his previous fight with Captain America, but Stark remained unconvinced. As Stark departed, Ned Leeds informed Parker not to return to the party as Flash Thompson continued to mock him. As Spider-Man left the area, he discovered a Chitauri energy core left behind by Bryce and Schultz during the chase. Spider-Man took the core to gather info on the criminals' weaponry and plan a strategy to track them down. Tracking Vulture. Despite expressing his intention to stop investigating with Tony Stark, Parker found himself drawn into probing his new adversary. He confided in Ned Leeds about his harrowing encounter with Vulture and the discovery of the Chitauri energy core left behind after the chase with Jax and Bryce. While Leeds was excited to be a part of the situation, Parker used a hammer to dismantle the core, following Barry Hapgood's advice to avoid the blades, and he and Leeds agreed on their next steps before sealing the deal with their customary handshake. After thoroughly examining the Chitauri power core, whimsically referred to by Leeds as their glowy thingy, they encountered Herman Schultz and Randy Vale at Midtown School of Science and Technology, where they were still searching for the core. Parker, pulling Leeds out of harm's way, explained Schultz's attempt to kill him the previous night alongside Jax and Bryce. Despite Leeds urging them to run and hide, Parker insisted on following Schultz and Vale to gather information on Vulture, disregarding Leeds' pleas as he pursued the duo through the school. After persuading a hesitant Leeds to stay by Tiny McKeever's chess game for safety, Parker shadowed Schultz and Vale during their exploration, leading them into Hapgood's workshop where they had been recently studying. Concealing himself beneath a table, Parker observed as Schultz and Vale eventually abandoned their search. As the duo exited the school, Parker discreetly attached his spider tracer to Schultz's shoe. Upon returning to the Parker residence, Parker and Leeds utilized the tracer on Schultz's boot to track the gang's movements as they ventured beyond New York City. While Leeds marveled at the array of technology provided by Tony Stark, Parker tinkered with the spider signal and other gadgets, while Leeds diligently monitored Schultz's whereabouts. In a moment of boredom, Leeds requested that Parker wear his mask, finding it to be quite impressive. As Leeds tried on the Spider-Man mask and Parker rested on the ceiling, they discovered that Schultz and Vale had halted in Maryland. Contemplating the idea of an evil lair, they discussed their ideas for reaching Maryland. Parker recalled the upcoming decathlon in Washington, D.C., realizing he could hitch a ride with the team heading there the next day for the finals. Decathlon trip. In an effort to secure transportation to Maryland and intercept Vulture's crew, Parker approached the decathlon team as they were boarding the bus bound for Washington, D.C., where the national tournament would take place. Requesting to rejoin the team, Parker faced initial opposition from Flash Thompson, who had taken Parker's spot. However, Roger Harrington welcomed Parker back eagerly and swiftly agreed to his return. Reluctantly, Thompson returned Parker's spot and team jacket. While en route to Washington, D.C., Liz Allen conducted a quiz to prepare the team for nationals, and Parker impressively answered a question about vibranium. However, he had to excuse himself when he received a call from Happy Hogan, inquiring why he left New York City, having tracked the Spider-Man suit's locator. Parker explained that he was on a school trip, successfully convincing Hogan that the situation was not a major concern. Nonetheless, Hogan reminded Parker that he would be keeping an eye on him. Approaching their destination, Parker and Leeds observed the remnants of the Triskelion still visible. Michelle Jones approached them, elucidating that the United States Department of Damage Control was still in the process of cleaning up the aftermath of Captain America's battle there several years earlier. While Jones shared her own conspiracy theories regarding these events, Parker pondered about the destination where Damage Control could transport the recovered equipment and technology. In their hotel room, Parker commenced the task of extracting the tracker from inside his suit, enlisting Leeds' assistance. He aimed to keep Tony Stark unaware of his intention to follow Vulture's crew to their base. When Leeds questioned Parker about deceiving Iron Man, Parker clarified that he wasn't lying, but simply wanted Stark to grasp the full extent of his hero capabilities. Successfully locating and detaching the tracker from his suit's circuits, Parker placed it on a lamp, diverting Hogan's tracking to the decoy. Leeds then uncovered various advanced subsystems within the suit, all currently disabled by the training wheels protocol, much to Parker's dismay. Frustrated with what he perceived as unnecessary limitations imposed by Stark, Parker managed to persuade Leeds to override the protocol, despite his friend's reservations about the decision. Parker argued that this act of assistance would designate Leeds as his guy in the chair and afford him the opportunity to prove himself genuinely to Stark. Observing Herman Schultz's movement, Parker concealed the suit beneath his clothes and prepared to pursue him. He also tasked Leeds with safeguarding the Chitauri energy core in his absence. As he started to make his exit, Parker crossed paths with Allen and the rest of the decathlon team, who were planning to sneak into the hotel pool for a swim. Thompson ran past, playfully tapping Parker on the backside. However, Parker claimed he couldn't join them due to his commitment to studying. Despite Allen emphasizing the importance of winning the competition and her belief that engaging in a rebellious activity together could enhance the team's cohesion, Parker opted to prioritize tracking down Vulture and his crew. In the Spider-Man suit, he sat outside a window, watching wistfully as Allen, Thompson, Cindy Moon, and the others enjoyed themselves in the pool, while Parker remained solitary and focused on his ongoing mission. Damage Control Truck Attack. Upon suiting up in the Spider-Man suit with the removed restrictions, Spider-Man made a startling discovery. The suit housed his personal AI system. Congratulating him on seemingly surpassing the training wheels protocol, the AI introduced herself and began educating Spider-Man about the suit's complete capabilities. Spider-Man shared information about the Spider Tracer, prompting the AI to reveal its location as they traversed Washington to pinpoint it. Before long, they identified Vulture's crew near an abandoned gas station, which Spider-Man initially mistook for their headquarters. Utilizing the suit's advanced functions to eavesdrop on their conversation, Spider-Man overheard Herman Schultz and Phineas Mason discussing their plans, including obtaining Shocker's gauntlet from Crossbones. He learned that the crew intended to pilfer confiscated alien tech from the United States Department of Damage Control transfer trucks passing by shortly. As Spider-Man geared up to confront Vulture's crew, his new AI suggested activating new features in his suit, leading Spider-Man to discover an instant kill mode, which he promptly rejected, expressing his aversion to causing harm. The AI then showcased Spider-Man's enhanced web shooters and the multitude of advanced web shooter combinations. Despite still being in the learning phase, Spider-Man made a mistake, resulting in a comical mishap where he chose the wrong options, ending up on his face and inadvertently electrocuting the gas station. Spider-Man observed the arrival of Vulture, utilizing his exosuit to catch up with and latch onto the damage control truck in motion. Pursuing the truck, Spider-Man discovered that Vulture had employed a matter phase shifter to infiltrate and pilfer all available Chitauri and Ultron-based technology. Seizing the bag from him, Spider-Man confronted Vulture as he prepared to depart. However, Vulture resisted letting Spider-Man snatch his ill-gotten gains, reattaching himself to his exosuit and launching a furious assault. Spider-Man skillfully evaded the attacks, but realized that the webs chosen by his AI were ineffective in the fight. Forced to dodge Vulture's relentless strikes, Spider-Man urgently pleaded with his AI to rectify the web issue while fending off Vulture's attacks and reclaim the bag. Amidst the skirmish, Spider-Man retrieved the bag from Vulture and tumbled back into the van, inadvertently causing the bag to fall with him as the matter phase shifter sealed behind him. Unaware that the phase shifter had closed, Spider-Man accidentally knocked himself unconscious when he hurriedly attempted to exit, giving Vulture the opportunity to escape, even though the bag filled with stolen technology was left behind. Trapped in the storage vault. Regaining consciousness inside the truck, Spider-Man was informed by his AI that he likely had a mild concussion from hitting his head on the truck's ceiling. Inquiring about his location hours later, Spider-Man's AI was uncertain, leading him to deduce that the truck had been hijacked and brought to Vulture's headquarters. Believing they had to fight their way to freedom, Spider-Man charged towards the doors, smashing through them, anticipating a confrontation with the rest of Vulture's crew, only to find himself in a vast federal warehouse. Perplexed, Spider-Man looked around, and the AI revealed that they were inside the United States Department of Damage Control's deep storage vault. The likelihood of leaving before the following morning seemed slim. Initially attempting to force the door open in frustration, Spider-Man kicked it before resigning to explore the facility. While waiting, he contemplated giving the AI a name and settled on Karen, a choice she approved of. Opting to patiently endure the situation, Spider-Man utilized the time to familiarize himself with various web shooter combinations, such as the web grenade, web net, ricochet web, splitter web, and web wings. He also examined the Spider-Man suit's upgrades, including wings. Making a hammock from his web shooter, Spider-Man lay in it, seemingly left with nothing to do but wait for the night. During this time, he confided in Karen about his deep feelings for Liz Allen. After growing impatient, Parker inquired about the elapsed time, and Karen informed him that 37 minutes had passed. Anxious to find a way out, he began exploring and rummaging through Vulture's abandoned duffel bag. In the bag, he discovered Ultron's head and another purple Chitauri power core. Karen alerted Spider-Man that the Chitauri energy core could explode when exposed to sufficient radiation. Realizing the potential danger to Ned Leeds, who still had the core, Spider-Man became alarmed. Promptly, Spider-Man initiated efforts to escape the vault, collaborating with Karen to manually open the door by manipulating the fuse box. After attempting 247 combinations to unlock the door, Spider-Man succeeded in opening it and swiftly embarked on his journey back to Washington, D.C. Simultaneously, he desperately tried to contact Leeds to warn him of the imminent danger. Having successfully escaped the United States Department of Damage Control facility, Spider-Man urgently pleaded with Karen to locate his friends while hitching rides on passing vehicles, unable to swing to the city. Despite numerous calls, Spider-Man couldn't reach Ned Leeds, who was missing. In Parker's absence, Flash Thompson took his place in the decathlon, causing irritation for Liz Allen. Nonetheless, the team still emerged victorious. Parker tracked his friends to the Washington Monument and arrived just as the Chitauri energy core exploded, causing extensive damage. Upon reaching the scene, Spider-Man spotted Michelle Jones outside the monument, who informed him that her friends were trapped inside the elevator with no apparent means of escape. Karen confirmed that the elevator had been severely damaged by the energy core's explosion, which was poised to plummet to the ground floor shortly. With little time to spare, Spider-Man swiftly crawled up the monument, utilizing his web shooters to propel himself forward. However, he became intimidated by the increasing height. Karen reminded him that since he used his only parachute from the spider suit during the encounter with Vulture, a fall from the monument could be fatal. Despite the risk, Spider-Man pressed on with his ascent, determined to rescue his friends. Upon reaching the perilous situation at the top of the monument where his friends were trapped, Spider-Man's rescue attempt drew the attention of local authorities, who dispatched a helicopter to confront him and instruct him to leave. Despite attempting to explain the urgency of the situation, Spider-Man faced threats from the authorities, demanding his departure under the threat of being shot. Unfazed, Spider-Man used the Spider Tracer to find an entry point. Disregarding the warning, Spider-Man ingeniously entered the monument by leaping over the helicopter blades with the assistance of the suit's wings. Swinging back towards the monument, he broke through the windows just in time to use his web shooters to prevent the elevator from plummeting to the ground. Spider-Man successfully rescued his schoolmates and teacher Roger Harrington from the trapped elevator. Amid Ned Leeds' celebration of the rescue, Spider-Man urged him to stop moving as he helped everyone to safety. During the rescue, Liz Allen slipped, prompting Spider-Man to catch her midair and pull her back up to the safety of her friends. Hanging upside down, Spider-Man ensured Allen's safety while Karen suggested that he kiss her. However, Spider-Man's web snapped, causing him to fall, and Flash Thompson questioned if he knew Parker. Back in New York, following the events in Washington, D.C., Parker returned to New York City, pleased to witness the positive attention garnered by Spider-Man after the successful rescue at the Washington Monument. While navigating the school hallways, Parker encountered news reports by Betty Brant and Jason Ionello, highlighting Spider-Man's heroic actions in saving his classmates. As Parker traversed the school corridors, he was greeted by Ned Leeds, who inquired about the experience of being famous without anyone knowing it was him. Parker reiterated his plea for Leeds to keep the truth under wraps. Revealing his decision to skip class, Parker explained that he had deduced Vulture's use of stolen technology from the United States Department of Damage Control to create weapons, and now his goal was to catch Vulture in the act. Expressing confidence that Tony Stark would eventually recruit him into the Avengers for his heroic deeds, Parker reasoned that he did not need to worry about attending school. Marita overheard and promptly gave him detention for planning to skip class. In detention with Michelle Jones, Parker watched a video of Captain America before deciding to walk out. Andre Wilson made no attempt to stop Parker, who proceeded to retrieve his concealed synthetic webbing and left the school. Upon returning to the Parker residence, Parker promptly resumed the pursuit of Vulture, donning the Spider-Man mask and engaging in a conversation with Karen. Seeking assistance in identifying the men he encountered under the bridge, Parker inquired if Karen could access video files through the baby monitor protocol. Watching the footage, he identified Jackson Bryce and Herman Schultz as they threatened another man before Spider-Man intervened. From Karen, Spider-Man learned that the buyer was Aaron Davis, a criminal residing in New York City. Determined to confront him, Spider-Man utilized the Spider drone to locate Davis in a car park. Employing his web shooters, Spider-Man attached Davis to his car bonnet. Following Karen's suggestion, Spider-Man activated Intimidation mode, heightening his vocal volume with voice modulation for a more imposing presence. However, Davis quickly saw through the ruse, recalling their previous encounter, prompting Parker to turn it off. Spider-Man pressed Davis to reveal Vulture's whereabouts, emphasizing the urgency of locating the weapons and issuing threats if Davis refused to cooperate. Unfazed, Davis forcefully slammed his car bonnet, causing Spider-Man to jump. Davis questioned Spider-Man's interrogation experience and inquired about Delmar's Deli Grocery, recounting his shock at its destruction during a robbery. Expressing gratitude for Spider-Man's earlier intervention when Schultz attempted to kill him and expressing concern for his nephew's safety, Davis disclosed information about an upcoming weapons deal involving Vulture and Matt Gargan. Despite Spider-Man's eagerness to pursue the lead, he was informed that the event was scheduled to occur on the Staten Island ferry. Davis suggested that Spider-Man improve his intimidation skills before Spider-Man left, leaving Davis stuck to his car. Ambush at the ferry. Acting on the information provided by Aaron Davis, Spider-Man swiftly traversed New York City and clandestinely boarded the Staten Island ferry. Utilizing the wings on his Spider-Man suit, he soared above the water and attached himself to the side of the boat. In search of Vulture, Spider-Man encountered a man he presumed to be the criminal conversing with Herman Schultz. Learning that they were on the verge of striking a deal with Matt Gargan, Karen supplied additional information. While scouting, Stark called Parker, intending to apologize for not responding to his calls and suggested speaking with Happy Hogan. However, during their conversation, Spider-Man observed Randy Vale preparing to hand over the Chitauri weapons to Gargan and the other criminals. To focus on his targets, Spider-Man had to abruptly end the call with the somewhat annoyed Stark before it was too late and Gargan escaped. Spider-Man intervened in the deal, seized the keys to the truck containing Chitauri and Ultron-based technology, and engaged in a brawl against the crew and Gargan's men. Facing off against Schultz, who now possessed Shocker's gauntlet from Jackson Bryce, Spider-Man attempted to strike him with it. Ultimately, Spider-Man emerged victorious, knocking Gargan overboard and trapping Schultz's arm, humorously remarking that Bryce had been far more proficient with the gauntlet than Schultz. After trapping Randy Vale with his web grenade, Spider-Man spotted the individual Schultz had been conversing with earlier, assuming it was an unmasked Vulture. Before Spider-Man could confront him, FBI agents arrived, mistakenly arresting everyone, including Spider-Man, whom they believed to be Gargan's ally. Spider-Man, surprised and protesting his innocence, found himself caught in the mix. Seizing the distraction, Vulture swiftly donned his suit and launched an attack on Spider-Man and the FBI agents. While Spider-Man shielded and rescued the agents from the assailants' onslaught, Vulture released his men, urging them to escape. The ensuing battle saw Vulture utilizing advanced weaponry in an attempt to eliminate Spider-Man. Spider-Man countered by deploying the advanced function of his new web shooters to level the playing field, webbing Vulture to a car in an effort to impede his movements. Vulture managed to free himself by slicing through Spider-Man's webbing with his wings, persisting in his assault. Eventually, the confrontation led to a malfunction in Vulture's Chitauri alien weapon. Spider-Man attempted to restrain the weapon with his webbing, but Vulture, dismissing Spider-Man's understanding, declared that he was dealing with forces beyond his comprehension. The weapon exploded, cleaving the ferry in half, leaving Spider-Man to watch in horror as innocent lives hung in the balance. Overseeing the unfolding crisis, Spider-Man watched as Vulture and Schultz successfully fled, leaving him in a frantic race to rescue those trapped inside the ferry, which was gradually splitting in two. Karen swiftly identified the ship's strongest points, prompting Spider-Man to deploy his web shooters and enhance speed, skillfully webbing the critical areas to prevent further separation. After a momentary pause to catch his breath following the intense effort to avert the ferry's demise, Spider-Man surveyed his work, receiving cheers from onlookers. However, to his dismay, he discovered a missed spot, causing the ship to collapse once again. As the webs snapped sequentially, water inundated the ferry, posing a severe threat to those on board. In a desperate attempt to safeguard lives, Spider-Man webbed up the sides of the ship and strained to single-handedly support both halves. Despite his Herculean effort, the ship continued to split and sink. However, a moment of relief ensued as Spider-Man noticed that the ship had ceased sinking, and the strain on him had subsided. Iron Man then revealed himself, taking control to rescue the civilians and relieving Spider-Man of the burden. As Spider-Man observed, Iron Man employed mini thrusters from his Mark 47 armor to bring the sides of the ship back together. The same man who had cheered for Spider-Man moments earlier now applauded Iron Man's efforts. Ignoring Spider-Man's offers to assist, Iron Man swiftly reconstructed the ship by rejoining the severed sections. Once the vessel was restored, Iron Man whisked Spider-Man away for a private conversation, asserting that the young hero had already done enough. Final test: losing his suit. After the ferry incident was resolved, Parker sat on the outskirts of New York City, witnessing the ongoing rescue efforts when Iron Man approached him. Stark reprimanded Parker for his recklessness, emphasizing that his actions could have led to the death of innocent people. Frustrated, Parker argued that he had tried to warn Stark about the danger posed by the Vulture and his criminal crew, but Stark had dismissed his concerns. Parker insisted that if Stark truly cared, he would have been present in person. In response, Stark exited his armor, acknowledging that he did listen to Parker. He credited Parker as the only one who believed in him, despite skepticism from others, including Happy Hogan, who thought Stark was crazy to recruit a kid. Stark revealed that he had tipped off the FBI about Vulture, and their plan would have succeeded if it weren't for Parker's intervention. Stark then demanded the return of the Spider-Man suit, prompting a tearful protest from Parker. He pleaded that the suit was all he had, and without it he felt worthless. Stark retorted that if Parker had believed the suit was essential to his uniqueness, then he shouldn't have it. Reluctantly, Parker stammered that he had nothing else to wear, to which Stark assured that he could take care of that. Before bringing him to the Parker residence, Stark bought Parker a shirt and pink pajamas. Upon returning home, Parker encountered his frustrated and worried Aunt May. She explained how she had tirelessly searched for him, reaching out to police stations and even Ned Leeds' mother after learning about Parker's class skipping and detention evading antics on the news. Expressing her concern, May revealed that she knew he left his hotel room in Washington, D.C., and snuck out of their home each night, but was in the dark about his activities. Desperate for answers, May demanded an explanation for his nightly escapades. Tearfully, Parker covered up the truth by stating that his apparent rebellion stemmed from losing the Stark Industries internship. He claimed that despite his hard work, he had somehow messed it up. As Parker sat down, visibly upset, May believed his story and offered comfort, expressing understanding. Parker apologized for worrying her, and May concluded their conversation by reminiscing about her own rebellious past, advising Parker to take a shower, jokingly remarking that he smelled like garbage. Return to school. Initially demoralized by the recent encounters with Vulture and the loss of his spider suit, Peter decided to embrace his forced retirement. He rationalized that his dream of joining the Avengers was doomed due to their permanent move to the Avengers compound. Accepting that he should resume his daily life at Midtown School of Science and Technology, Parker found himself in Principal Morita's office. Morita, insisting that Parker was a good kid, surprisingly assigned him more detention, leading Ned Leeds to believe that Parker was expelled. Following Morita's orders, Parker endured additional detentions, accompanied by only Coach Andre Wilson and Michelle Jones, who entertained herself by sketching Parker looking despondent. The break from his Spider-Man duties allowed Parker to excel in his schoolwork, particularly in Spanish. In the meantime, he and Leeds completed the Lego Death Star they'd been working on for several months, bringing them considerable satisfaction. As the upcoming homecoming celebration approached, Parker began preparing for the event. In school, he crossed paths with Liz Allen, apologizing for missing the decathlon final in Washington, D.C. Allen, having reevaluated her priorities after a near-death experience, accepted the apology. Parker mustered the courage to confess his feelings for Allen, to which she amusingly responded that Parker was terrible at keeping secrets. Chuckling, Parker learned that Allen, busy with the celebration preparations, hadn't found a date yet. Seizing the opportunity, Parker asked her out. To Parker's pleasant surprise, Allen readily accepted his invitation. Delighted and suddenly feeling a bit awkward, Parker mentioned how Principal Morita had assigned him a significant amount of detention before realizing he was walking in the wrong direction for his next class. Passing by Allen on his way to his next lesson, Parker couldn't hide the huge smile on his face, confirming that his feelings for Allen were reciprocated. Still overjoyed, Parker quickly returned to the Parker residence and sought Aunt May's help in getting ready for the homecoming dance to make a good impression on Allen. With May's guidance, Parker learned how to dress appropriately for the occasion, including applying a questionable aftershave and mastering the art of tying a tie, a task that he struggled with until confirming with May that he got it right. May also helped Parker practice his dance moves, and despite feeling a bit awkward, the support and care from his aunt allowed Parker to ease into the preparations for the dance. Parker even put together a flower corsage as a gift for Allen. On the evening of the homecoming, May drove Parker to the Toombs residence to pick up his date, ready for an enjoyable evening with the lovely Allen. Vulture's secret. Parker made his way to the Toombs residence, nervously ringing the doorbell and awaiting Liz Allen's parents to open the door. To his dismay, Adrian Toombs answered, recognized as Vulture from their encounter at the ferry. Parker remained cautious as Toombs greeted him, shook hands, and welcomed him inside, complimenting Parker's strong grip. Navigating the house with a mix of confusion and quiet terror, Parker concealed his unease after the realization that he was in the home of the man he'd been pursuing. As Doris Toombs greeted him, Adrian jokingly offered Parker a drink, suggesting whiskey or scotch. Parker declined, citing his age, a response that earned approval from Adrian. Liz Allen joined them, showcasing her party dress. Adrian complimented her beauty, leaving Parker speechless as he grappled with the revelation about Liz's father. As they prepared to leave, Doris insisted on taking some pictures. Parker struggled to avert his horrified gaze from Adrian during the awkward photo session with Liz. Eventually, Adrian agreed to drive the two to the celebration. While driving to Midtown School of Science and Technology, Adrian inquired about Parker's post-school plans, intrigued by his Stark Industries internship and association with Tony Stark and Spider-Man, as mentioned by Liz. During the ride, Adrian remarked on the familiarity of Parker's voice and questioned if they had met before, with Liz pointing out their shared participation in the decathlon. Continuing their conversation, Liz casually mentioned Parker's absence during her party and the Washington, D.C. trip. Realizing these were the instances when Spider-Man thwarted his arms deal and robbery attempts, Adrian deduced Parker's identity as Spider-Man based on voice similarities. Despite the tension, Parker tried to appear calm while Adrian maintained eye contact. As they stopped outside the school, Adrian instructed Liz to go inside first for some privacy. Alone with Parker, Adrian revealed his true intentions by producing a gun from the glove department. He asked if Liz was aware of Parker being Spider-Man, which Parker denied. Toombs hinted at keeping secrets from one's family, signaling his own commitment to concealment. Recognizing the significance of family, Toombs cautioned Parker to steer clear of his criminal activities. Expressing gratitude for saving his daughter's life, Toombs offered Parker a final chance to walk away unharmed if he agreed not to interfere with Vulture's impending heist. Toombs emphasized that any pursuit by Parker would lead to severe consequences, including harm to Parker's loved ones, including Aunt May, a threat that deeply alarmed Parker. As Parker made his way to the celebration, he grappled with a dilemma. Staying with Liz, his desire, would mean allowing Vulture to steal advanced technology, leading to the sale of dangerous weapons in New York City and potential harm to innocent lives. On the other hand, pursuing Vulture and seeking justice would entail Liz losing her father. In the end, Parker chose his responsibility as Spider-Man. At the dance, he found Liz with Michelle Jones and Ned Leeds, but instead of joining his friends, he approached Liz. Sensing her father's threat, Liz confronted Parker, who apologized and stated that she deserved better before abruptly leaving. Parker retrieved his original Spider-Man suit and web shooters hidden beneath the lockers and chased after Vulture. Shocker's ambush. Swiftly donning the original homemade spider suit, Spider-Man rushed outside, only to be unexpectedly ambushed by Shocker, tasked by Vulture to eliminate Spider-Man for breaking their agreement. Caught off guard, Spider-Man took a forceful blow to the face, losing both of his web shooters and leaving him at a significant disadvantage. Despite Shocker's mockery of his makeshift costume, Spider-Man desperately attempted to retrieve his web shooters. However, Shocker, wielding his powerful gauntlet, knocked a school bus into Spider-Man, further complicating the situation. Unyielding, Shocker continued his assault, smashing Spider-Man through the bus and causing him to comment on the unpleasant discovery of gum underneath the seats. As Shocker overturned the bus with another forceful strike from his gauntlet, Spider-Man rolled out, disoriented and in considerable pain from the relentless beatings. On the ground, Spider-Man questioned Adrian Toombs' motives for sending him there, receiving only a cryptic response from Shocker. Before Shocker could strike again, Ned Leeds arrived just in time, using the web shooter to halt Shocker's attack and rescue Spider-Man. Seizing the advantage, Spider-Man swiftly overcame Shocker, webbing him to a school bus and rendering him helpless. Acting swiftly, Spider-Man then disclosed Vulture's true identity as Liz Allen's father to Ned Leeds, emphasizing the urgency of informing Tony Stark. While swinging away from the scene, Spider-Man instructed Leeds to contact Happy Hogan and keep his phone on for continued communication. In need of transportation to navigate New York City in pursuit of Vulture, Spider-Man intercepted Flash Thompson, who was en route to the homecoming dance with his date, while expressing dissatisfaction about their dinner. Spider-Man halted Thompson by leaping onto the car's hood, demanding the keys and phone with a deeper, more intimidating voice. Despite Thompson's protest about it being his father's car, Spider-Man commandeered the vehicle, briefly colliding with a bike rack to Thompson's dismay. While driving, Parker used Thompson's phone to call Leeds, revealing that he had left his own phone in Toombs' car for tracking. Despite Parker's struggle with driving, Hogan ignored Leeds' call as he was occupied relocating Avengers Tower to the Stark cargo plane. He realized that Vulture intended to hijack the entire structure. They traced Vulture to his headquarters and Parker sped towards the location, inadvertently crashing the car, confronting Vulture. Assisted by Ned Leeds, Spider-Man swiftly located Adrian Toombs in an aged warehouse. Using his webbing to descend gracefully, he uncovered computers containing data on Avengers Tower and the Stark cargo plane, along with Vulture's exosuit. While exploring further, Spider-Man eventually encountered Toombs, who was waiting for him near his workbench. Inquiring whether Toombs was surprised to see him alive after the Shocker incident at the school, Spider-Man received a calm response acknowledging admiration for his determination, with Toombs noting why Liz Allen favored him. Using his web shooters, Spider-Man ensnared Toombs' hand on the table, pressing him for an explanation regarding the impact of his criminal activities on his family. Toombs asserted that he committed these crimes for his family's sake, providing support. Spider-Man argued against Toombs, stating that distributing Chitauri and Ultron weapons to criminals like Matt Gargan was morally wrong. In response, Toomes contended that individuals such as Tony Stark amassed their fortunes through weapon sales at Stark Industries, asserting there was no distinction between his actions and Stark's. As Toomes continued speaking, he emphasized that influential figures like Stark and the Avengers were indifferent to the concerns of ordinary working men like them. Questioning why Toomes was sharing this information, Spider-Man learned that Toomes wanted him to comprehend his perspective and could remotely control his Vulture's exosuit. The suit's wings initiated an attack on Spider-Man, who skillfully evaded the onslaught and taunted Toomes. Toomes clarified that Spider-Man wasn't his intended target. The wings purposefully demolished the last supporting beam, causing debris to bury Spider-Man. Toomes, donning his suit, abandoned Spider-Man to his seemingly imminent demise beneath the rubble. Regaining consciousness under the depths, Parker realized that he was trapped between massive pieces. Struggling to move and gasping for air, he attempted to free himself with all his strength. Terrified and unable to get help, Parker desperately called out for assistance, but his pleas echoed unanswered, leaving him isolated. In pain, he noticed his Spider-Man mask in the water, catching a glimpse of his reflection. Observing his reflection and recalling Stark's post-ferry incident advice, Parker began to grasp the true meaning behind his mentor's decision to take away the suit. With or without the suit, he was Spider-Man, and the power was inherently his own. Empowered by this realization, Spider-Man renewed his determination, summoned his strength, and painstakingly pushed aside the debris. Eventually breaking free, he retrieved his mask, ready to relentlessly pursue Vulture. Hijacking of the Stark plane. Having escaped, Spider-Man located Vulture on the outskirts of the demolished warehouse, vigilantly observing Avengers Tower. Seizing the moment, Spider-Man leapt towards him, webbing onto him as he soared toward the Stark cargo plane, carrying millions in equipment. Unaware of Spider-Man's presence, Vulture continued his hijacking, feeling a slight air drag. Ascending into the sky, Spider-Man gazed down at New York City, disappearing through the clouds with Vulture. Reaching the plane, Vulture, utilizing Tinkerer's upgrade, attached himself to crawl inside. Realizing his web shooters were ineffective at such high altitudes and speeds, Spider-Man opted to dismantle Vulture's exosuit, covering the plane breach. After nudging the exosuit, rushing air entered through the matter phase shifter, revealing Spider-Man's presence and foiling Vulture's hijack. In response, Vulture donned his exosuit, engaging Spider-Man in a fierce mid-air battle around the plane. Spider-Man wryly remarked on the atypical nature of his homecoming, fighting the father of his date in the skies. Deprived of the advanced capabilities of his Stark-designed Spider-Man suit, Spider-Man had to rely on improvisation to evade Vulture's relentless attacks. The intense struggle inflicted significant damage on the cargo plane, with Spider-Man narrowly escaping being hurled into one of the plane's engines. Utilizing his web shooters, he blocked the blades to save himself, kicking away from the engine while Vulture circled, poised for another attack. Scaling back onto the plane's roof, Spider-Man deftly avoided Vulture's attacks. The villain aggressively employed his razor-sharp Vulture wings, aiming to either kill Spider-Man, knock him overboard, or thrust him into the engine. Spider-Man skillfully evaded the onslaught, securing himself to the plane with webs to remain on board. Tinkerer informed Vulture that his attacks had caused significant damage. Realizing the impending danger of the plane crashing into New York City, Spider-Man was horrified at the potential risk to thousands of lives. While Vulture persisted in his attempts to pilfer arc reactors and other technology for profit, Spider-Man, utilizing his web shooters and strength, altered the plane's trajectory. He barely averted a collision with skyscrapers, preventing a catastrophic crash that would have endangered countless lives. Having successfully altered the plane's course to spare the lives of New Yorkers, Spider-Man's webbing eventually gave way, hurling him onto the opposite wing. Observing the imminent collision course with Coney Island, Spider-Man found himself helpless. The plane careened into the beach, violently disintegrating upon contact, casting both Spider-Man and Vulture onto the sandy shore. Duel at Coney Island. Fatigued and battered from the plane crash, Spider-Man reluctantly removed his mask to breathe in the acrid air surrounding the wreckage. Yet, without his mask, the absence of its sensory filtration overwhelmed him, and in that brief lapse of attention, Vulture seized the opportunity to catch him off guard. Despite the damage inflicted on Vulture's wings, he maintained a distinct advantage over Spider-Man, emerging as the less injured combatant. Vulture aggressively launched an assault on the already injured Spider-Man, who struggled to deploy his web shooters and mount an effective defense. Despite Spider-Man's valiant efforts, his exhaustion hindered his focus, allowing Vulture to inflict severe injuries. Vulture pinned Spider-Man to the ground, delivering relentless blows before launching him skyward. As they ascended, Vulture endeavored to hurl Spider-Man into a steel pipe. However, Spider-Man, suspended by his webs, engaged in a mid-air clash. In a swift turn, Vulture gained dominance, repeatedly slamming Spider-Man into the ground, inflicting substantial injuries against the sandy banks. Hovering at the edge of consciousness, Spider-Man found himself ensnared in Vulture's wings. Yet, as Toomes prepared to deliver a fatal blow, he noticed a nearby crate stocked with Stark Industries arc reactors ripe for the taking. Vulture left the incapacitated Spider-Man on the ground, proceeding with his quest to secure Stark Industries' technology and safeguard his fortune. Upon liftoff, Spider-Man observed that Vulture's wings were on the brink of explosion due to radiation overload. Desperately attempting a rescue, Spider-Man webbed onto the wings, trying to pull Vulture back. However, Vulture disregarded Spider-Man's warnings, severed the web, and attempted to soar to freedom. As Spider-Man foresaw, Vulture's wings detonated upon takeoff, sending him crashing to the ground in flames. Determined to save Liz Allen's father, Spider-Man braved the flames, finding Toomes injured but alive. Though a slight burn hindered his initial attempt, Spider-Man persisted, eventually lifting the rubble with his hands beneath the sand. With Toomes rescued, both caught their breath. Having defeated Vulture, Spider-Man webbed him to the remaining cargo, including a note confirming his identity and extending an apology for the airplane clash with Tony Stark. Spider-Man rested atop a roller coaster, observing as the New York City Police Department, accompanied by Happy Hogan, arrived. Toomes was discovered and subsequently arrested for his crimes. Hero of New York, returning to school. With Vulture now defeated and in custody, Parker's life gradually returned to normal, and he resumed attending Midtown School of Science and Technology. Strolling through the hallways with Ned Leeds, Parker heard his friend enthusiastically recount the Shocker fight, where Leeds had used Spider-Man's web shooters to prevent Shocker from harming Peter. However, following Vulture's arrest and the exposure of his criminal activities, Liz Allen and her mother decided to relocate from New York City. As Allen prepared to leave school, Parker approached her, apologizing for abruptly leaving the homecoming dance without providing an explanation. Expressing condolences for her father's arrest, Parker learned that Allen was moving to Oregon, as Adrian didn't want his family to witness his trial. Allen bid farewell to Parker, expressing hope that he could sort out his life, leaving him saddened by her departure. During the academic decathlon meeting, Roger Harrington presented the team with their trophy from Washington, D.C., and the group applauded their victory. However, due to Allen's relocation, Harrington announced the need for a new team leader, revealing that Michelle Jones would succeed her, a decision met with widespread approval, including Parker's. A grateful Jones mentioned her preference for friends to call her MJ. During practice, Parker received a text from Happy Hogan instructing him to meet for a private conversation in the bathroom. Reading the message, Parker excused himself from the decathlon team meeting. Just as he was about to leave, Jones inquired about Parker's destination and what he might be concealing. For a brief moment, Parker felt a hint of nervousness, suspecting that Jones might be onto the truth, only for her to playfully declare that she didn't actually care about his life, providing him with some relief. Honoring Hogan's request, Parker met him in the bathroom. Hogan then apologized for neglecting Parker's calls and not taking him seriously. Expressing gratitude, Hogan thanked Parker for rescuing the Stark cargo plane from Vulture, acknowledging that Spider-Man's intervention had saved his job at Stark Industries. Their conversation was briefly interrupted by Tiny McKeever using the toilet, leading to an awkward moment before Hogan clarified that Tony Stark wished to speak with Parker upstate, rejecting the Avengers. Parker was then escorted to the Avengers compound, where he marveled at the state-of-the-art technology the facility possessed, observing a Quinjet taking off from the grounds. At the compound, Happy Hogan accompanied Parker to meet Tony Stark, who was awaiting him. Stark requested a private conversation with Parker, but Hogan insisted on staying nearby. As they strolled together, Stark apologized for taking away Parker's spider suit, attributing it to the ambush at the Staten Island ferry and its aftermath, considering it a necessary tough love moment. Stark admitted his misjudgment of Parker's abilities and acknowledged that Parker was deserving of joining the Avengers, realizing it had always been the young hero's ultimate dream. With 50 reporters waiting for them, Stark proudly presented a new Iron Spider armor for Parker to don. He informed Parker that, if ready, he would introduce the world to the newest Avengers member, Spider-Man. While Parker was thrilled at the prospect of joining the Avengers and collaborating with his mentor, his encounter with Vulture had instilled in him a newfound sense of maturity. As Stark began outlining the logistics of Parker joining the Avengers, suggesting he stay next door to Vision, Parker, aware that he needed more learning before joining the team, respectfully declined Stark's offer. He expressed a preference for staying on the ground as a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, assisting those in need within New York City, surprising Stark considerably. Respecting Parker's decision, his mentor agreed to let him return to New York. Hogan instructed Parker to wait in the car while he had a private conversation with Stark during Parker's absence. Before leaving, Parker turned and inquired if this was merely a covert test of his character, questioning the existence of 50 reporters waiting to announce him as the newest Avengers member. Stark affirmed it was a test, and he passed, allowing Parker to walk away. Little did Parker know, Stark was genuinely intent on recruiting Spider-Man into the Avengers. To divert attention away from this revelation, Pepper Potts and Stark informed the reporters that they were there to announce their engagement. Meanwhile, Hogan handed Stark the ring he had carried for years. Upon returning to the Parker residence, Parker found his second suit returned by Stark, left in a bag on his bed with a note stating that it belonged to him. Excited about hitting the streets again to protect New York City, Spider-Man eagerly put on the suit. However, unbeknownst to him initially, Aunt May witnessed him donning the suit. She stood in Parker's doorway, watching as he took off his mask. May then reacted loudly, expressing shock and disbelief, demanding an explanation that left Parker utterly stunned and horrified. Parker would inform his aunt of his dual identity, and she came to accept it, even supporting his work as Spider-Man. Even though Parker didn't genuinely hold a Stark Industries internship and merely used it as cover for his activities as Spider-Man, Stark extended an official internship offer to him. Soon after, Parker and Stark had a meeting, during which they posed for a photo, and Stark presented him with a certificate to acknowledge the completion of the internship. Infinity War, New York Invasion. 2 years later, while on a school field trip to the MoMA, Peter's heightened senses alerted him to a potential threat as he noticed an alien warship hovering over New York City. Responding to the danger, Parker decided to take action. Inside the school bus, Parker surveyed the situation and quickly enlisted Ned Leeds to create a distraction. Leeds, upon seeing the alien warship, began swearing and screaming for his life, capturing the attention of the other students who looked out their windows to see what was happening. Seizing the opportunity, Parker utilized his web shooters amidst the chaos, opening an emergency escape hatch onto one of the windows and slipping out onto the side of the bus. He promptly donned his Spider-Man suit to conceal his identity and swung off the bridge to investigate the unfolding conflict in the city. Swiftly navigating through Greenwich Village, Spider-Man arrived just in time to assist Iron Man as he confronted Cull Obsidian's hammer. Greeting Iron Man with an uplifting remark, Spider-Man was questioned about his sudden appearance. Explaining that he was on a field trip to the MoMA, Spider-Man continued conversing with Iron Man until Obsidian intervened, grabbing Spider-Man and hurling him across the field. During Iron Man's ongoing battle, Spider-Man rose from the ground and joined the fight, questioning Iron Man about the alien's motives. Iron Man explained that Obsidian hailed from space and sought a necklace from a wizard. Leaping onto Obsidian, Spider-Man found himself ensnared by the hammer and thrown once more. Despite their joint efforts, Iron Man and Spider-Man struggled to subdue Obsidian. Amidst the confrontation, Spider-Man noticed Ebony Maw hovering across the city alongside Doctor Strange. Iron Man instructed Spider-Man to rescue Doctor Strange, prompting him to swing towards Maw. However, Spider-Man was injured by Maw's telekinetic power, which sent a billboard hurtling towards him. Swiftly recovering, Spider-Man pursued Maw, successfully using his web to snatch Strange from the air and swing away before Maw could intervene. Navigating the city with an unconscious Doctor Strange, Spider-Man then encountered difficulty when the Q-ship's gravitational pull came into play. Employing the lamppost to anchor himself and utilizing his strength, Spider-Man made a valiant effort to save the sorcerer. However, Maw, using telekinesis, disrupted Spider-Man's hold on the lamppost, propelling him towards the alien warship. Struggling to reach Strange, Spider-Man called out to Iron Man, acknowledging the challenging predicament he was in. Despite being stuck at the warship, Spider-Man managed to crawl up the side of the ring. Concluding his battle, Iron Man located the Q-ship and soared into the sky, instructing Spider-Man to remain in place. He activated Item 17A from the Avengers compound, intending to assist Spider-Man. With dwindling oxygen, Spider-Man unmasked himself, struggling to breathe. Communicating with Iron Man, Spider-Man insisted on saving the wizard, per his instructions. Iron Man countered, cautioning that Spider-Man would lose breathable air as the ship ascended. Facing near suffocation, Spider-Man struggled as the ship left Earth's atmosphere, ultimately falling off due to oxygen deprivation. Iron Man intervened, summoning the Iron Spider armor. The nanotech particles enveloped Spider-Man, allowing him to recover with a skillful landing and restored breathing. Grinning, Spider-Man remarked that the new suit smelled like a new car. While Iron Man hovered above, Spider-Man followed instructions and Friday deployed a parachute from the back of his ship. Despite Spider-Man's protests, the parachute carried him away. Webbing onto the Q-ship's side, Spider-Man clung fiercely and entered a vault. As the vault sealed, Spider-Man pondered whether staying on the bus would have been a wiser choice. Rescue of Doctor Strange. Traveling towards Titan on the Q-ship, Spider-Man observed Iron Man and the Cloak of Levitation waiting at the ship's rendezvous point. Unmasking himself, Parker anticipated Stark's reaction and attempted to reassure him. Stark, however, was infuriated that Parker had followed him through the ship, prompting the young hero to justify his actions. Backtracking, Parker mentioned the considerable distance from home and the suit's intuitive nature. He somewhat blamed Stark for allowing him on the ship. Stark, angered, demanded a retraction, which Parker reluctantly did. Parker insisted on staying with Stark, but Stark emphasized the need for careful consideration, leading Parker to retract his statement once again, claiming he had indeed thought his plan through. In an attempt to be rational, Parker argued that you can't be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man without a neighborhood. Despite Stark being perplexed by the logic, Parker convinced him to let him stay. Once agreed, Spider-Man approached the edge and Stark instructed him to devise a plan to rescue Doctor Strange below. After a brief moment of contemplation, Parker proposed a strategy inspired by the movie Aliens. As Strange endured further torment, Spider-Man patiently waited while Stark stealthily approached Ebony Maw to surprise him. Stark then ruptured the ship's hull, creating a breach that led to the vacuum of space, ultimately causing Maw's demise. Observing Strange being dragged away, Spider-Man swiftly shot a web at him and clung to a pole, desperately holding on. Unfortunately, the pole broke, and Spider-Man began plummeting toward the breach. Unexpectedly, Spider-Man activated the spider legs on his new suit, enabling him to cling to the edge of the breach. Joyfully, he rescued Strange from imminent danger. Hanging on, Spider-Man examined the newly revealed spider legs with curiosity. He pulled Strange onto the ship, utilizing his spider legs to propel them upward, allowing Iron Man to seal the breach. Upon reviving the sorcerer, Parker greeted the Cloak of Levitation with a handshake, prompting it to leave in response, leaving Parker to humorously let it be. Engaged in a heated debate, Strange confronted Stark for endangering his life by saving him in a ship with no backup. Amidst their argument, Stark asserted that he had backup, with Parker recalling himself as that backup. Stark disagreed, dismissing Parker as a stowaway. Strange speculated whether Parker was Stark's ward, but Parker clarified that he wasn't and introduced himself to Doctor Strange, who reciprocated the introduction. However, Parker misunderstood Strange's proper title, mistaking it for his superhero name. Observing the conversation while walking toward the ship, Parker witnessed Stark and Strange discussing and arguing about how to confront their common enemy, Thanos. After debating various considerations, Strange reluctantly agreed to assist in confronting Thanos. As Stark walked ahead, he formally acknowledged Peter, declaring him an official member of the Avengers, much to Parker's delight. Meeting the Guardians. Upon reaching their destination, Parker collaborated with Tony Stark in maneuvering the Q-ship, utilizing an arm piece to facilitate a safe landing on Titan. While attempting to navigate around abandoned structures, Parker unintentionally crashed into them. To prevent a catastrophic crash, Doctor Strange shielded Parker and Stark with holographic Tau mandalas. Following the crash landing, Parker found himself hanging upside down before Strange and Stark. Humorously, he shared a hypothetical scenario involving alien eggs implanted in his chest, apologizing if he had to eat one of them. Stark, irritated, sternly instructed him to refrain from making pop culture references and to stop talking altogether. Undeterred, Peter asserted that he was attempting to alert them to an impending threat. A group of aliens attacked them, detonating a bomb in their vicinity, prompting quick evasive maneuvers. Mantis startled Parker while attempting to approach him to induce sleep with her powers. In fear, Parker swiftly webbed her up, concerned about potential threats. However, Peter Quill engaged Parker in combat. Dodging Quill's quad blasters, Parker tried to counter with his iron spider legs, but he was subdued by electrical bolas that delivered vigorous shock. The skirmish reached a stalemate, with Quill holding Parker at gunpoint. Stark managed to capture and subdue Drax the Destroyer. Quill threatened to kill Parker and interrogated Stark about Gamora's whereabouts, receiving a response that Stark had no knowledge of Gamora. Strange questioned the aliens about the master they served, suggesting a potential allegiance with Thanos. Quill clarified that they didn't serve Thanos but aimed to kill him, prompting the Avengers' introduction. Mantis recognized the Avengers, mentioning Thor. Stark inquired if they knew Thor, and Quill confirmed, adding a humorous remark about Thor's looks, leading to a disagreement between Parker and Quill. Making a plan. After forming an alliance and disembarking from the damaged ship, Quill assessed Titan's gravitational anomalies, determining its axis was off. Mantis conducted gravity tests by leaping up and down, leaving Parker bewildered and exasperated. As Stark pondered a plan to thwart Thanos, Drax rudely interrupted with a yawn, annoying Stark. Star-Lord explained that listening wasn't their strong suit, prompting Parker to question the Guardian's role. Mantis provided a comprehensive explanation, leaving both Parker and Stark utterly perplexed. Stark instructed Star-Lord to assemble his team. While attempting to devise a plan, Star-Lord suggested a different approach, referring to the time he saved the galaxy with a dance-off. Parker questioned if it was akin to the movie Footloose, and Star-Lord gleefully confirmed. Star-Lord asked Parker if Footloose was considered the greatest movie on Earth, but Parker clarified that it never held that distinction. Battle of Titan. As Iron Man and Star-Lord engaged in a heated argument, Mantis alerted Stark to Doctor Strange's peculiar behavior. Strange disclosed his use of the Time Stone to peer into the future, identifying a singular timeline where they emerged victorious despite numerous ways of defeat. Thanos eventually arrived, disclosing Titan as his homeworld to Strange. As Spider-Man and his comrades stealthily approached Thanos, a fiery battle erupted. Spider-Man webbed Thanos' face and delivered a striking blow. Utilizing the Cloak of Levitation, Strange created portals for Spider-Man to launch successive attacks. Despite their efforts, Thanos swiftly immobilized Spider-Man and provoked threw him at Strange, both crashing into the ground. Soon, Spider-Man and his allies were joined by Nebula, enabling them to momentarily subdue Thanos. Iron Man urged Spider-Man to help him remove the Infinity Gauntlet. As they attempted to overpower Thanos, Nebula, realizing her sister's demise, triggered Quill's anger. Quill attacked Thanos, disrupting Mantis' control just as Spider-Man nearly succeeded in extracting the gauntlet from Thanos' grip. Thanos reasserted control, retrieved the gauntlet, and flung Mantis aside. Observing her being hurled away, Spider-Man swiftly intervened to rescue her. Thanos proceeded to assault the Alliance, hurling debris from a nearby moon towards Titan. Spider-Man swung through the fallen meteorites, holding onto Mantis, skillfully avoiding the fiery projectiles, erratic debris, and colossal pillars floating in various directions. Perching on a stationary pillar, Spider-Man securely webbed up Mantis, promptly rescuing Quill, Nebula, and Drax as they plummeted uncontrollably. He webbed across their locations, tethering them to a cliff. Despite his efforts, Spider-Man became flustered, struggling to recall the names of the Guardians before gently setting them down to safety. Thanos' victory. On Titan, Parker and the remaining Guardians of the Galaxy members began to recover from their encounter with Thanos. Parker made his way to the area where Doctor Strange and Tony Stark were grappling with the aftermath of their battle. Standing over Stark, Parker assisted him by lifting him to his feet, providing support after the brutal duel with the Mad Titan. When Thanos completed the Infinity Gauntlet and executed the snap, Parker witnessed his allies on Titan disintegrating into ashes, starting with the members of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Addressing Stark, Strange conveyed that there was no alternative way to save the universe. Growing weaker, Parker conversed with Stark, turning around to grasp the gravity of the situation. Moving slowly, Parker uttered Stark's name and expressed feeling unwell, realizing that he was fading away. Fear-stricken, Parker struggled to comprehend what was happening, clinging desperately to Stark. Tearfully, Parker conveyed his fear of death to Stark. Stark, visibly shocked, stood by Peter's side, helpless, as Parker whispered a final apology before dissolving into dust. Battle of Earth. In 2023, following the blip's reversal, Parker returned to life and regained consciousness, initially unaware of the events that transpired. Doctor Strange informed him of the 5-year gap and the urgent need to return to Earth. After Strange reached out to Wong to assemble allies from different dimensions, Parker, alongside Peter, Quill, Drax, and Mantis, were transported through an interdimensional portal to the Avengers compound, now in ruins. Parker aligned himself with the Avengers, standing behind Steve Rogers during his rallying speech. Prepared for battle, he faced an alternate Thanos and his formidable forces, including Chitauri, Sakarans, Outriders, and the Black Order. Engaged in the fight, Spider-Man employed his webs to pull Cull Obsidian away, preventing harm to Tony Stark. Following Scott Lang's giant-sized intervention, crushing Obsidian with an enlarged foot, Parker unmasked himself and assisted Stark in standing. Sharing his experience of turning into dust and mentioning Doctor Strange's presence, Parker was surprised when Stark hugged him. In response, Parker returned the hug, expressing that it felt comforting. Protecting the Gauntlet. After Hawkeye entrusted the Nano Gauntlet to Black Panther for safekeeping, Spider-Man swung into action, calling out to Black Panther, who was ensnared by Ebony Maw. Black Panther tossed the gauntlet, and Spider-Man shot a web strand to secure it. Upon obtaining the Nano Gauntlet, Spider-Man landed on an Outrider and activated instant kill mode, impaling numerous Outriders. Despite successfully defeating many, handling them in packs proved challenging for Spider-Man, realizing he lacked sufficient leverage. Seeking assistance, Spider-Man's call caught Captain America's attention. As Outriders closed in on him, Captain America hurled Mjolnir at Parker, who clung to the hammer with a web strand. However, when a shot from the Sanctuary 2, directed by alternate Thanos, severed the web strand, Parker began to fall. Pepper Potts, donning her Mark 49 armor, intercepted him, delivering him onto Valkyrie's steed, Warsong. Attempting to introduce himself to Valkyrie, a subsequent shot from the Sanctuary 2 knocked him off the steed and onto the ground. Spider-Man attempted to evade the impending onslaught, but was abruptly struck by a blast, propelling him across the field. As he sought cover from the incoming fire directed at the people below, Parker observed the tempest of energy blasts originating from Thanos' ship. However, the ship's guns redirected towards Captain Marvel, who had descended into Earth's atmosphere and obliterated the Sanctuary 2. Upon Captain Marvel's arrival, Rogers enlisted her help in transporting the Infinity Stones to Luis's van. Maintaining protection over the Nano Gauntlet, Parker saw Danvers land before him and nervously introduced himself, receiving a greeting from Danvers. When Danvers requested something from Parker, he glanced at the multitude of armed forces surrounding them. Parker handed her the Nano Gauntlet and expressed uncertainty about how she would navigate through the approaching army. Wanda Maximoff joined him, reassuring him not to worry as she and the other female heroes rallied behind Danvers. Losing Tony Stark. Despite their utmost efforts, an alternate Thanos obliterated the van with his sword and overwhelmed Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and Captain Marvel. In a decisive move, Stark appropriated the Infinity Stones, integrating them into his suit, and utilized their power to eliminate the alternate Thanos and his entire army. As gamma radiation emitted from the fatally wounded Stark, Parker swung over to him, noticing his precarious condition. Approaching Stark, who had James Rhodes by his side, Parker leaned in for a conversation. He conveyed the victory in the battle to Stark, who, unable to respond, brought tears to Parker's eyes. Frustrated by the inability to elicit a response, Parker realized Stark was dying and grappled with overwhelming guilt. After Pepper Potts gently pulled the distraught Parker away and bid her goodbye, Stark peacefully passed away, and Parker paid tribute to him. In the subsequent weeks, Parker returned to Midtown School of Science and Technology along with many students who were victims of the snap. Embracing a mix of emotions from the battles and Stark's demise, Parker arrived with a heavy heart. However, a smile crossed his face as he reunited with Ned Leeds. Performing their familiar friendship handshake, they hugged each other before heading to class. A week later, Parker and his aunt went to the Stark Eco compound to attend Stark's funeral. Parker then witnessed when Potts sent Stark's inactive arc reactor that was cuddled with flowers into the lake. Summer trip. Discussing travel plans. 8 months post-blip, following his resurrection, Parker found himself harboring feelings for his classmate and friend Michelle Jones. Determined to confess his emotions, he saw the upcoming school summer trip to Europe as the perfect opportunity. On the final day of school, Parker sought out Ned Leeds in art class, sharing his elaborate plan and hoping for his friend's advice. Detailing his strategy, Parker explained how he intended to sit next to Jones on the flight, use a dual headphone adapter for shared movie watching, purchase a black dahlia necklace in Venice, and in Paris take Jones to the top of the Eiffel Tower to present the necklace and express his feelings. Hoping for validation, Parker eagerly awaited Leeds' response, only to be advised against carrying out any of the planned actions. Baffled by the unexpected advice, Parker questioned Leeds, seeking clarification. Leeds argued that both of them would be eligible bachelors in Europe, asserting that Europeans held a fondness for Americans. Despite his doubts, Parker opened up to Leeds about genuinely appreciating Jones for her personality and humor, just as she approached their table. Jones inquired if they were excited for the science trip, and Parker affirmed enthusiastically, with Leeds chiming in that they were discussing the plan, prompting Jones to inquire further. Growing flustered, Parker admitted to Jones that he lacked a plan, while Leeds humorously suggested that he could simply collect tiny spoons across Europe. Trying to save face, Parker clarified that he wasn't planning to collect spoons, but implied that Leeds might be. Jones intervened, advising them to download a VPN before the trip, a suggestion Parker readily agreed with. Leeds, finding amusement in the situation, remarked that their interaction had gone quite well, much to Parker's chagrin. Running several errands. Exiting the hallway of Midtown School of Science and Technology, Leeds inquired about Parker's plans for his last day in New York City. Parker mentioned running errands, including buying mini toothpaste, picking up his passport, and dealing with the Manfredi crime family. Despite Leeds' concern, Parker assured him that he could handle the errands on his own. Upon entering Delmar's Deli and Grill to purchase travel gear, Mr. Delmar inquired about Parker's upcoming trip and expressed interest in joining. Parker explained that it was a science trip, causing Delmar to lose interest. While at the counter, Parker asked for a dual headphone adapter in Spanish, leading to confusion due to mispronunciation. After buying the headphones, he headed to a pawn shop. At the pawn shop, Peter was questioned about selling his toys. Despite hesitation, he affirmed his decision, revealing his intention to buy a gift for a girl he liked. The owner wished him luck, expressing hope that she was worth it. Before leaving, Parker reclaimed the Lobot toy and kept it. His next step was the United States Postal Service to collect his passport, but he encountered a lengthy line inside the room. Growing impatient at the queue, Parker decided to call upon his spider drone from his backpack to help find a new spot. He waited as the drone climbed into another pickup line and activated its opening mechanism. Successfully securing a better position, Parker retrieved his drone and then approached a lady eating a sandwich to inquire about passport pickup. Attack on the Manfredi crime family. Having completed his pre-departure errand, Spider-Man donned his Iron Spider armor before entering an upscale restaurant under the control of the Manfredi crime family. Commencing a decisive battle to put an end to the Mafia Cold War, Spider-Man aimed to ensure their arrest. Employing his synthetic webbing, Spider-Man skillfully subdued a pair of criminals, webbing them up and sending them crashing to the ground. Landing on a table, he strategically used a web grenade to immobilize another goon, attempting to aim a gun at him. Backflipping off the table, Spider-Man efficiently shot his webbing at multiple adversaries, skillfully avoiding gunfire. As the webbing securely anchored the goons to walls and ceilings, Spider-Man sat down on a table in admiration of his own tactics. Alert to a Manfredi goon armed with an assault rifle, Spider-Man evaded a barrage of bullets, showcasing the bulletproof nature of his suit. Seizing the opportunity when the goon was reloading, Spider-Man informed him of the suit's resilience, and then pulled himself with his webs and executed a dropkick to the face. Spotting a hidden goon reaching for a firearm on the floor, Spider-Man swiftly webbed him up, suspending him from the ceiling. After vanquishing a considerable number of crime family members, the remaining criminals charged at Spider-Man. Employing his combat skills, Spider-Man delivered a punch to one goon's face and deftly evaded attacks. In a resourceful move, he utilized a red bell pepper as an improvised weapon, incapacitating another adversary. Activating his iron spider leg, Spider-Man swiftly disarmed a goon wielding a kitchen knife and engaged him from behind. He also deftly clashed with two goons brandishing knives and thwarted an attack with a fire extinguisher. Responding to a goon attacking from behind with a fire extinguisher, Spider-Man punctured it. As the fire extinguisher released its contents, Spider-Man dispersed the fumes and used his webs to seal a cracked fish tank before the arrival of the New York City Police Department. Upon their arrival, Spider-Man briefed the police on the situation. Engaging in conversation with one of the reporting police officers, Spider-Man identified the roles of the criminals: runner, buyer, seller, and snitch. The accused snitch was alarmed by the revelation. Apologizing for blowing the cover, Spider-Man advised Officer Bristow to incarcerate the snitch separately. When asked if he'd be the next Iron Man, Spider-Man responded sarcastically, stating his commitment to fulfilling the police's duties rather than assuming the role of the iconic superhero. Amidst the collective laughter of the police officers at Bristow's embarrassment, Spider-Man reassured them that he was only joking. However, he earnestly emphasized the importance of them fulfilling their duties this time, expressing his intention to go on vacation. Walking away from the restaurant, Spider-Man allowed the police to handle the situation. He declined Bristow's offer for a selfie, promising to do so next time. Pressure from the public. Attending a homeless support shelter event at the Urban Sports and Cultural Center hosted by May Parker, Spider-Man donned his Iron Spider armor for a stage performance aimed at those displaced and rendered homeless after the blip. After May shared her personal experience of being blipped back into experience, she introduced Spider-Man to address the audience. Spider-Man, somewhat stiffly, expressed his gratitude to May and the audience for having him. After May encouraged the audience to hang around for photos and videos, when Spider-Man returned, he unmasked himself and shared a high five with May in appreciation of her speech. May complimented him on his efforts, but playfully criticized his stiffness during the speech, to which he agreed. Changing the subject, May asked if Parker had packed his passport and mini toothbrush, and he confirmed that he had. As Parker and May observed Happy Hogan with a check, Hogan introduced himself to May. Parker, noticing Hogan's attempts at flirtation, asked about the check, prompting May to explain that it was from Pepper Potts. May instructed Parker to go to the public area and meet them. Confused by Hogan's behavior, Parker inquired about it, but Hogan deflected his question and informed him that Nick Fury was calling. Parker inquired with Hogan about the reason for Fury's attempt to contact him, learning that Fury contacts superheroes for various activities. Initially hesitant, Parker suggested that Fury might be looking for someone else. However, as Parker's own phone started ringing, revealing Fury as the caller, he reluctantly declined to answer. Hogan insisted that he pick up the call or else Hogan would have to. Parker questioned why Hogan couldn't answer it himself, to which Hogan admitted that he was scared and urged Parker to take the call. Looking up at Hogan, Parker decided to send Fury to voicemail, prompting Hogan to express concern about casually ignoring Fury. Noticing the backstage crew calling him, Parker informed Hogan that he had to go. Walking away as his Iron Spider legs opened up the curtains, Parker assured Hogan that he would call Fury later, emphasizing the promise to do so after his school trip. Masking himself, Parker faced a multitude of news reporters upon entering, ready to respond to their inquiries. Facing a horde of reporters eager to ask Spider-Man questions, he selectively chose a reporter who inquired if he was the head Avenger, responding negatively. Another reporter questioned what he would do if aliens returned, a query that Spider-Man promptly declined. When asked if he was the next Iron Man, Spider-Man was overwhelmed with anxiety, prompting him to swiftly leap away and exit the building. Spider-Man web swung up the building, landing on the roof and unmasking himself to catch his breath. As Parker composed himself after the intense questioning, he received another call from Fury, but he promptly dismissed it. Surveying the city from the rooftop, Parker noticed a graffiti memorial dedicated to his late mentor, a sight that stirred complex emotions within him as he grappled with the daunting prospect of living up to Iron Man. Later, as he began packing his clothes for the upcoming trip, Parker received a call from Fury but continued to ignore it. Contemplating whether to bring a Spider-Man suit, Parker was unexpectedly hit by a banana thrown by May, who apologized and teased him about his Peter tingle. When May suggested packing the suit just in case, Parker insisted on enjoying a superhero-free vacation for his summer break. After a hug from May, Parker decided to leave his suit in the closet, even glancing at his Iron Spider armor in a chamber and opting to go without it. He aimed to fully immerse himself in the field trip without the burden of superhero responsibilities. Unbeknownst to him, May later took it upon herself to pack his suit, flying to Europe. On the plane to Europe, Peter eagerly anticipated the trip, savoring the view before departing from New York City. Seated beside Ned Leeds, Parker found himself subjected to Flash Thompson's mockery about his previous reliance on trains instead of buses. Thompson, holding a glass of champagne, made jests about Parker's financial status. Observing the situation, Michelle Jones took action by informing the flight attendant that Thompson was underage due to being a victim of the blip, resulting in his drink being confiscated. Parker chuckled as Thompson's beverage was taken away, and Brad Davis found Jones's move amusing. Parker, with a hint of concern, watched as Davis assisted Jones with her luggage, fearing a potential romantic interest. As Leeds mentioned the lengthy 9-hour flight and suggested playing Beast Slayers, Parker sought to persuade Leeds to help him switch seats to be closer to Jones, despite Leeds initially expressing a desire to be bachelors together. Ultimately convincing Leeds to assist, Parker approached Jones and Betty Brant, sharing a fabricated story about Parker having a fake allergy to the perfume of an elderly lady seated in front of them. As Roger Harrington observed the stir caused by Parker's perfume allergy, he took charge, rearranging the seating to ensure Parker's safety by placing him next to himself. Parker noticed the adjustments, with Leeds now beside Brant and Jones seated next to Davis. Adapting to the change, Parker picked up his backpack and shifted to the seat next to Harrington, learning about his teacher's purported small bladder. In his new seat, Parker engaged in conversation with Harrington, who shared a tale about his wife, initially believed to have perished during the blip, but later discovered to have joined her hiking group. Through the hours-long flight to Venice, Parker continuously monitored the interactions between Jones and Davis, growing frustrated with himself for disrupting his own plan. Attempting to distract himself, he searched for a motive but stumbled upon Heart of Iron, the Tony Stark story, compelling him to halt any further activities. As the flight attendants announced the availability of the restroom, Parker decided to take a break and headed in that direction. While washing his hands, he opened the door only to find Jones standing in front of him, prompting a swift retreat into the bathroom. Attempting to compose himself and appear as if he had just used the restroom, Parker opened the door again, only to discover Davis waiting to use the facility, much to his chagrin. Encountering Hydro Man. Arriving in Italy, Parker confronted Ned Leeds upon witnessing Michelle Jones and Brad Davis together at the airport. He informed Leeds that they seemed to be enjoying themselves watching movies. Despite being reassured that it was probably nothing, Parker soon discovered that Leeds and Betty Brant were now in a relationship. He questioned Leeds about his commitment to being a bachelor in Europe, remarking that he seemed too mature for such endeavors. Proceeding through security, Parker carried his luggage to the exit, but a guard dog detected something suspicious in his briefcase. Forced to demonstrate the contents of his luggage, Parker tried to assure the guard that there was nothing important inside. The security lady unzipped the case, revealing his Spider-Man suit with a sticky note left by May. Nervously glancing around, Parker was relieved when the guard informed them that bananas were not allowed. After reuniting with his classmates at the airport, Parker joined them on a sailboat in Venice. Observing the city's landscape and discreetly checking if Jones was enjoying herself, Parker and his classmates disembarked at Hotel de Matisse. They settled into their rooms before being instructed by Julius Dell to gather at the Da Vinci Museum later that day. Leaving the hotel, Parker and his classmates decided to explore and enjoy the city. While his classmates were occupied with their activities, Parker observed Jones spending time with Davis, capturing moments of their trip through photographs, which left him feeling envious of their close bond. In an effort to express his feelings, Parker explored the city in search of a jewelry store and ultimately purchased a Black Dahlia necklace. Running into Jones, they walked together, exchanging the phrase with Beau in Italian. When Jones declined flowers from a vendor, Parker was questioned about the contents of his shopping bag. Responding with Beau, he persuaded her to accept the gift. As they strolled along the canals, they noticed numerous crabs emerging from the water, and Parker sensed something amiss when a water drain behaved unusually. Within moments, Hydro Man emerged from the canal, causing chaos by crashing a gondola carrying Leeds and Brant. Assisting his classmates in evacuating the boat, Parker witnessed Hydro Man rising from the water. Advising Leeds to leave with their friends, he realized he didn't have his suit. After guiding people to safety, Parker skillfully avoided Hydro Man's attacks and equipped his web shooters behind a wall. Despite attempting to shoot webbing at the creature, it passed through with no effect, leaving Parker disappointed. Observing a bridge filled with people in danger, Parker vaulted onto several wooden poles, seized a paddle from a cruiser to lift himself into the air, and landed on the bridge. Assisting in clearing the area, he was forcefully punched back by Hydro Man, colliding with the bridge rail. Recovering, Parker then witnessed the unexpected arrival of Mysterio, who soared in to confront the elemental using his magical abilities. Upon spotting Mysterio in the air, Parker scanned his surroundings and discovered a carnival mask on the ground, promptly donning it to conceal his identity. While Mysterio engaged Hydro Man with raw power, Parker called out to the new superhero, expressing his willingness to help and emphasizing his strength and stickiness. In response, Mysterio instructed Parker to lead the elemental away from the Grand Canal. As Mysterio flew away, the elemental charged in pursuit. Following Mysterio's guidance, Parker backflipped from the rooftop, observing both Mysterio and Hydro Man tailing him, and swung up to the rooftop of a building. From this vantage point, he witnessed the intense pursuit between Mysterio and Hydro Man, inadvertently causing structural destruction within the building. Parker contributed to the safety of civilians by swinging across the city, preventing rubble from endangering the fleeing people below in the streets. Employing his web shooters, Parker prevented rubble from the buildings from falling onto the ground and secured all the walls with webbing. He then observed Hydro Man and Mysterio continue their battle in the plaza. Taking immediate action, Parker swung up to a church building, using his webbing to seal any cracks in the walls. Climbing to the church bell roof, he anxiously witnessed Hydro Man causing damage to the building. Utilizing two nearby buildings for support, Parker used his webbing to anchor them and prevent the church building from collapsing onto his classmates below. Amidst the intense battle with Mysterio, Parker was struck in the face by the bell, causing him to lose grip on one of the web strings and suffer another hit from the church bell. Reapplying the webbing, he clung tightly as the structure teetered on the brink of falling. Struggling to support the building and facing hits from the bell, Parker endured as the battle concluded, with Mysterio finally defeating Hydro Man with his powers. Feeling the impact of the splashing water, Parker lost his grip, allowing the building to collapse to the ground. Swiftly recovering from the destruction, he checked to ensure his Black Dahlia necklace remained intact, relieved to find it undamaged after the fierce battle. Meeting Nick Fury. Returning to the hotel, Parker responded to May's call and discussed the Venice incident. Expressing his desire to continue the trip, he assured May that he was glad she packed his suit. When questioned about the mysterious superhero, Parker informed May that he didn't know him and clarified the confusion regarding another magic-based hero. While on the call, Parker overheard May instructing Happy Hogan not to eat her lunch, leaving him perplexed. May explained that Hogan had come to check up on her, raising Parker's suspicions about Hogan's intentions. Following the awkward conversation, Parker updated May on these setbacks and confessing his feelings to Michelle Jones and eventually hung up the phone. The media labeled the superhero from the incident as the Man of Mystery, alias Mysterio. Despite Flash Thompson acknowledging Mysterio's incomparability to Spider-Man, Parker listened and endured ruthless insults. Seeking information from Jones about the incident, she admitted to simply running away. Parker concurred, revealing that he also fled, expressing excitement for the upcoming trip to Paris. In response, Jones shared that the Eiffel Tower held a special place in her heart. Upstairs, Parker was queried by Leeds about his plans for dealing with Hydro Man, to which he replied that he intended to focus on his trip, emphasizing that Mysterio had handled the monster. While brushing his teeth, Parker observed Leeds being suddenly tranquilized by Nick Fury, who expressed frustration at being ignored. Surprised by Fury's unexpected visit, Parker listened to the explanation about a mysterious cyclone appearing in Morocco. As Fury continued speaking, their conversation was repeatedly interrupted by Leeds' snoring, Roger Harrington discussing if they needed anything, Betty Brant seeking a conversation with Leeds, and Julius Dell. Desiring privacy, Fury escorted Peter to his hideout, traveling in a gondola. During their journey, Spider-Man received Tony Stark's glasses, a gift left by his mentor, which he held on to until their arrival at the hideout. Inside the hideout, Parker was instructed to remove his mask to maintain secrecy. Unmasking himself, he was introduced to Maria Hill and Dmitry Smerdyakov, but unexpectedly spotted Mysterio. Parker mentioned his name, clarifying that it was a moniker from his friends. Beck introduced himself to Parker, shook hands, and expressed a desire to have someone like him on his world. Perplexed, Parker learned from Fury that Beck hailed from a different world, Earth 833. Beck elaborated on the existence of a multiverse, surprising Parker, who then apologized for being momentarily distracted. Beck elaborated to Parker that the elementals originated from outer space, embodying elements from various worlds. Parker listened as they discussed how the elementals were once considered myths until they materialized on Beck's Earth. Beck recounted that his battalion attempted to thwart them, but one elemental destroyed his world and took the lives of his loved ones. Fury informed Parker that a fire entity would appear in Prague. Upon learning that he would accompany Fury and his crew to Prague, Parker expressed his concern, deeming the situation too challenging for just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Despite Fury justifying his duties, stating that he was in space, Parker pointed out his accidental presence and suggested seeking help from other superheroes like Thor, Doctor Strange, and Captain Marvel. However, he was informed that all of them were either off-world or unavailable. Expressing his desire to remain on the trip to please his aunt and safeguard his identity in Europe, Parker informed Fury that being seen there could expose him. Agreeing with Parker's concerns, Fury acquiesced and allowed him to continue the trip. Grateful for the mission offer, Parker thanked Fury and was escorted back to his hotel by Smerdyakov, unaware that Fury had intentions to hijack his journey. The following day, Parker checked on Leeds, finding him well and learning that he felt reassured after being tranquilized by Fury. Harrington then disclosed to the class that the next destination was Prague, revealing an upgrade from the travel agency. As the Midtown group headed towards the bus, Smerdyakov posed as the driver and guided them inside. It dawned on Parker that Fury had indeed hijacked their trip, a realization that he shared with Leeds. Attacked on the highway. As the Midtown group traveled in the bus in Austria, Parker glanced at the case containing Tony Stark's glasses before searching for romantic places on his phone. He picked up the glasses and tried them on, also retrieving the card Stark left him, reading the words, "For the next Tony Stark, I trust you." Following the given instructions to say Edith, Parker found himself interacting with an AI system seeking control. Introduced to Edith, Parker learned about its role as an aerial defense system with access to telecommunication networks. Observing everyone's communications on their phones, he noticed Ned Leeds and Betty Brant texting closely, leading to confusion. When the Midtown group made a stop at an Austrian rest area, Dmitry Smerdyakov directed Peter to discreetly meet the seamstress, prompting him to follow the plan. In the concealed room, Parker introduced himself to the seamstress, who instructed him to disrobe. Confused, Parker learned that the seamstress had crafted his new stealth suit. Despite feeling awkward, Parker followed the seamstress's orders to undress to avoid being seen. In the midst of pulling down his pants, he was unexpectedly discovered by Brad Davis, who photographed him despite Parker's attempts to explain. Parker hastily pulled his pants back up, intervening when the seamstress aimed her handgun at Davis. Going outside to speak with Davis, Parker tried to clarify the misunderstanding, but his explanation was met with skepticism. Davis clarified that he was aware of Parker's supposed connection with Jones throughout the entire trip and insisted that she needed to know the truth about him. Despite Parker's plea for Davis not to reveal the photo, he adamantly refused, sparking anger in Peter. Upon returning to the bus, Parker observed Davis on his phone, prompting him to frantically reach for Edith. Urging the AI to help him resolve the issue with Davis, Parker struggled against the AI's attempts to make him speak up. After explaining his predicament, Parker was questioned about whether Davis was a target, to which he confirmed. However, Edith misinterpreted the order as a drone strike as it initiated it from Stark Industries' satellite. Realizing the impending danger, Parker witnessed the arrival of the drone. Flash Thompson took Parker's glasses, complimenting them, but Parker attempted to retrieve them and accidentally knocked Thompson unconscious with a smack to the face, apologizing afterward. Donning the glasses again, Parker attempted to call off the drone strike against Davis, only to be questioned about punching Thompson. Denying the accusation, Parker's response led Edith to mistakenly control the drone strike. Thinking quickly, Parker used web shooters to manipulate the wheel and redirect the drone to the right. Unaware of the ongoing situation, he attempted to call off the drone strike again, but inadvertently dropped the glasses to the ground, picking them up. Retrieving them, Parker was instructed by Roger Harrington to take his seat. However, he diverted their attention by drawing the class's focus to baby mountain goats. Seizing the opportunity, Parker vaulted over the bus against the skyline, using his webbing to attach the drone to a rock and dismantle it. When Parker rejoined the class, he casually mentioned the goats they had missed, concealing the truth, although Branch sensed something amiss about him. Despite her complimenting his hair, Parker expressed gratitude, resuming his seat with a sense of relief and discreetly deleting the compromising photo from Davis's phone. Lectured. On the night of Parker's arrival in Prague, the group reconvened inside the Karlov 4 hotel, where their chaperones announced plans to visit the Carnival of Lights. Subsequently, Parker received a call from Maria Hill, answering it to learn about an upcoming plan. Hill informed him that his stealth suit had an earpiece and further instructions would be given once he arrived at the carnival. Following the call, Parker was approached by Ned Leeds, who advised him not to take offense if their conversation excluded details about Leeds' relationship with Betty Brant. Parker reassured Leeds and updated him on the imminent elemental attack, stating that he was currently working on a solution. Leeds emphasized that Parker and his friends were relying on him. Later, at another hideout, Parker confronted Nick Fury and his crew. Despite being momentarily distracted by Leeds' comments, Parker urged Fury to focus on planning the mission. Mysterio justified the distraction, acknowledging his previous abduction of Parker, but Fury emphasized the need to eliminate obstacles. When asked about the plan, Parker outlined his role at the cathedral, keeping an eye on Molten Man, coordinating with the crew, and engaging in combat alongside Mysterio. Beck corrected the creature's name. Aware that Molten Man could grow stronger when in contact with metal, Parker emphasized the importance of not endangering his friends during the mission. Fury berated Parker, asserting that he was unprepared for the fight, especially after the incident of using Edith to call a drone strike on one of his friends. Following the intense reprimand, Parker retreated to the roof to reflect on the situation. Mysterio, adhering to Fury's orders, joined him with a sarcastic remark. Inquiring about Parker's emotional state, Mysterio learned about his intention to confess his feelings to a particular girl. Seated beside Parker, Beck reassured him that desiring a normal life wasn't selfish, and acknowledged the challenging path of doing what's right. Despite Parker contemplating asking Beck to leave, he listened as Beck expressed his satisfaction in fighting battles with a clear understanding of the stakes. Acknowledging the risk he constantly exposed his friends to, Parker was offered a solution by Beck, to place them in a secure location away from the impending battle for a few hours, ensuring their safety. Thanking Beck for discussing superhero matters, they shared a joke about having the summer to deal with Davis once the mission concluded. Regaining focus, Parker left, jumping off the roof and apologizing to startled civilians. Utilizing Edith, Parker ensured his classmates were placed in an opera far from the upcoming battle, guaranteeing their safety for an extended duration. Night at the opera. After successfully directing his class to a secure location using Edith, Parker rejoined them when Roger Harrington made an announcement. Harrington informed the class that they'd be attending the opera, much to the disappointment of the entire group. As Leeds looked to Parker for confirmation of whether this was part of his plan, Parker subtly shook his head, validating Leeds' suspicion. Following Harrington's directive for the class to dress up for the opera, Parker walked alongside Michelle Jones, receiving repeated prompts from Maria Hill through his intercom for a response. As Parker's classmates took their seats in a sparsely populated opera house, he complimented Jones on her appearance, describing her as pretty. Jones playfully teased the value of her appeal, momentarily flustering Parker until she admitted reciprocating feelings for him. Parker and Jones observed Leeds and Betty Brant discovering opera glasses, expressing excitement at the sight of them. Jones suggested Parker join her with a pair of opera glasses, but before he could respond, Nick Fury contacted him through his hidden earpiece, instructing him to move into position. Parker informed Jones that she could take a seat, and as she headed to her place, he assured Fury that he was on his way. Before leaving the opera house, Parker asked Leeds for an alibi, advising him to tell Jones he was unwell if she inquired. Leeds implored Parker not to let Molten Man destroy the opera house, to which Parker assured him that he was already aware. Sneaking out of the opera, Parker briefly glanced at Jones until Brad Davis caught his eye and gave him the middle finger, provoking anger in Parker until Fury called in for his position. Fighting Molten Man. Continuing through the festivities of the Prague Carnival, Spider-Man, donned in his new stealth suit, perched on a high vantage point, vigilantly watching the area where Molten Man was anticipated to appear. Landing on a ledge, Parker contacted Mysterio to stay alert. Nick Fury inquired about the suit, to which Parker responded positively, mentioning a slight tightness around the groin area. At the expected time and location, Fury and Maria Hill detected an energy spike, indicating Molten Man's imminent arrival. The monstrous entity emerged from a statue, roaring at the crowd. Spider-Man informed the crew of its entrance and called in Mysterio to engage in battle. As Molten Man went on a rampage, Mysterio confronted it, and Spider-Man joined the fray, attacking with a wooden crate that inflicted damage. Clinging to a wall, Spider-Man used his web shooters to dislodge a fire hydrant, spraying water over Molten Man, while Mysterio unleashed his powers. Following the assault, Molten Man retaliated, attacking Spider-Man with its fist. Evading the blow with a backflip, Spider-Man landed on a carousel, which Molten Man subsequently destroyed, throwing Spider-Man off. Getting up from the ground, Spider-Man noticed Betty Brant and Ned Leeds on top of a Ferris wheel, playfully shouting "Night Monkey" at him. Growing more concerned for his friend's safety, Spider-Man witnessed Molten Man increasing in size and posing an even greater threat. Spider-Man tried to halt Molten Man using his web shooters, but the webs quickly burned away. Facing a dire situation, Mysterio intervened, using his energy dome to shield them both. As the monster continued its attacks within the dome, Mysterio urged Spider-Man to devise a strategy. Spider-Man suggested attacking with something Molten Man couldn't absorb, prompting Mysterio to guide him to the right, shifting their position. Web swinging onto a building, Spider-Man evaded Molten Man's powers, running up the wall and executing a backflip to avoid fires. Using his webs, Spider-Man grabbed a piece of debris and hurled it at Molten Man, causing harm. With the debris lodged inside the monster, Spider-Man signaled Mysterio to shoot at it, inflicting further damage. Landing atop a lamppost, Spider-Man was instructed to launch another attack. Utilizing his webs, Spider-Man seized more concrete debris and threw it at Molten Man for Mysterio to target. Instructed to keep Molten Man away from the Ferris wheel, Spider-Man descended during the battle, witnessing the monster punch the ground as cracks extended towards the carnival attraction. While Mysterio attempted to hold the monster back, Spider-Man moved to rescue Leeds and Brant, but he unexpectedly snagged onto an unseen object. After Spider-Man dislodged the object, sending it flying across the battlefield, he returned his attention to his friends and rushed to their rescue. Utilizing his webbing, he secured the Ferris wheel, preventing it from collapsing. While maintaining its stability, Spider-Man observed Mysterio shifting the tide in their favor until a scaffolding collapsed onto Molten Man. Realizing the challenge's magnitude, Mysterio attempted to use his powers to halt it. Expressing gratitude for their meeting, Mysterio shared his plan with Spider-Man. Using his powers, Mysterio absorbed Molten Man's energy and flew toward the creature, despite Spider-Man's plea not to. Witnessing Mysterio sacrifice himself to destroy Molten Man, Spider-Man set aside the webbing to secure the Ferris wheel. Approaching Mysterio lying on the ground, Spider-Man lowered himself to inspect his condition. Relieved to see Beck alive after the attempted sacrifice, Spider-Man helped them stand. As Fury and Hill approached, Beck was invited to join the crew in Berlin, to which he willingly agreed. Spider-Man then engaged in a conversation with Fury, attempting to reason with him, but he was interrupted and informed that Fury would like to have him in Berlin as well. Fury conveyed to Spider-Man that he possessed unique abilities, but needed to decide whether he would rise to the occasion, emphasizing that Tony Stark had chosen him and integrated him into the Avengers. Fury underscored Spider-Man's importance as a potential Avenger, asserting that the world required someone like him, though he remained uncertain if Spider-Man was up to the task. After suggesting that Stark might have been mistaken, Fury departed with his team. Beck, attempting to lift Spider-Man's spirits, invited him for drinks at a nearby pub, but Spider-Man responded that he wasn't old enough to drink yet. Talking with Mysterio. Unwinding in a Prague bar after a strenuous battle, Parker ordered a glass of lemonade and sipped it with a sense of disappointment, still stinging from Nick Fury's discouraging words. Quentin Beck stepped in to lift Parker's spirits, encouraging him to celebrate the victory he had achieved. Acknowledging Fury's remarks, Parker admitted that Tony Stark had done a great deal for him, and he felt a substantial debt towards him. When Beck questioned if Stark truly meant a lot to Parker, he explained that Stark provided him with the opportunity to do more, and encouraged him to strive for improvement, hoping Fury would continue to guide him in that direction. Beck prodded Parker about his current desires, and after some contemplation, Parker expressed his wish to return to his school trip with friends and ascend the Eiffel Tower with the girl who harbored feelings for him, the prospect of sharing a kiss. Despite Beck's admiration for the sentiment, Parker jokingly told him to stop. Beck, however, countered that Parker would never follow through, prompting Parker to agree, citing the weight of his responsibilities in such matters. When a waitress retrieved the Edith glasses from the floor and handed them back to Parker, Beck inquired about their origin and how they ended up on the floor. Encouraged by Beck, Parker put on the glasses to showcase their appearance. While taking a moment to appreciate the look, Parker mentioned his fondness for them. However, Beck bluntly commented that they looked foolish on him, much to Parker's genuine disappointment. Reluctantly, Parker handed the glasses to Beck to gauge how they suited him. Though initially hesitant, Beck decided to try them on. Observing the glasses on Beck, Parker reflected on Tony Stark's note, which read, "For the next Tony Stark, I trust you." Sharing this realization with Beck, Parker asserted that Stark had left him a message when he handed over the glasses. This left Beck in disbelief. Parker explained that Stark, aware of every mistake he had made, must have known that he wasn't prepared for challenges larger than himself. When Beck questioned why Stark would entrust the glasses to Peter, he suggested that Stark chose him because he could responsibly select the next Iron Man with Edith, unlike someone like Fury, who might simply claim the glasses for himself. Parker stressed that the next Iron Man should be an adult with experience, not someone like himself. Although Beck initially declined control over the glasses, Parker took the initiative and wore them, instructing Edith to grant Beck access to the network. Despite Beck's plea to refrain, Parker reminded him that Stark had given him the choice and wanted him to do the right thing by entrusting him with the responsibility of saving the world. Upon receiving a confirmation request, Parker agreed and handed over the glasses to Beck, extending a welcome to join the Avengers. After a moment of contemplation, Beck ultimately accepted the glasses, shook hands with Parker, and expressed his honor at being part of something significant. As Parker prepared to leave the pub, Beck shared a playful encouragement for Parker to pursue the girl he liked, citing his endearing awkwardness. After a light-hearted exchange, Parker bid farewell to Beck, leaving him alone. With newfound confidence, Parker exited the pub, eager to finally savor his vacation. Learning Mysterio's tricks. Upon returning to the hotel, Ned Leeds, clad in a bathrobe, greeted Parker with a hug, and revealed that their vacation had been abruptly terminated due to elemental attacks at each travel destination. Despite Parker assuring Leeds that the elementals were no longer a threat, Roger Harrington announced the group's early departure the next morning, much to the dismay of Julius Dell. As Leeds left to get dressed and spend some time with Betty Brant, Flash Thompson cautioned Parker to keep the noise down during his live stream on his phone. Realizing that his classmates' parents wanted them to return home, Parker felt disheartened that his plan to confess his feelings to Michelle Jones had run out of time. Jones encountered Parker on the same floor, questioning his whereabouts. Parker explained that he had gotten lost on the way back. After an awkward discussion about not going to Paris, Jones closed the door on Parker, prompting him to gather the courage to ask her out. Just as he was about to respond to the door, Parker found Jones on the verge of leaving the room. Seizing the opportunity, he invited her to go for a walk. In the hotel lobby, they caught a news report on television featuring Mysterio and the Night Monkey before Jones joined Parker, and they exited the hotel guest room together. They strolled along Charles Bridge, and Jones shared a historical tidbit about the landmark being a site for public executions. Transitioning from small talk about exploring the city, Parker broached a topic he'd been meaning to discuss. Prepared to present the Black Dahlia necklace from Venice, he was taken aback when Jones asserted that he was Spider-Man. Her revelation momentarily silenced Parker. Despite Jones suggesting it was apparent, Parker insisted that he wasn't Spider-Man, countering her references to incidents in Washington, D.C., and claiming that his absences were unrelated. When accused of participating in the carnival battle against Molten Man, Parker deflected, attributing the heroics to Night Monkey and denying any involvement, much to Jones's disbelief. Maintaining his denial of being Spider-Man, Parker found himself confronted with an item from the carnival covered in webbing that Jones had acquired. Though he observed the item, Parker remained steadfast in dissuading her from the accusation. As he attempted to clarify, the item projected a brief image of the air elemental. Following the conclusion of the holographic projection, which startled both Parker and Jones, Parker examined the device and determined it to be an advanced projector. Analyzing the image and technology, they reached the conclusion that the elementals were all deceptive illusions. As they contemplated who might be responsible for such a sophisticated ruse, the hologram persisted, revealing a simulated Mysterio engaged in battle with the air elemental. After the projection concluded, Parker came to the realization that he had made a significant mistake. Acknowledging that Mysterio orchestrated a larger conspiracy, Parker openly admitted to Jones that he was indeed Spider-Man and had erred greatly. As he ensured she grasped this revelation, he urged her to quickly return to the hotel before they ran out of time. Back at the hotel, Parker hurriedly explained to her that Tony Stark had left him the Edith glasses. Closing the drapes to avoid potential surveillance, Parker speculated on the possibility of being watched or targeted by a drone. When Jones expressed surprise at Parker having access to lethal drones, he explained that he almost used one on Brad Davis. Concerned that Beck might be spying on him through his phone, Parker decided to change into the stealth suit. As Parker suited up, Leeds shockingly discovered Parker and Jones together. Having completed his transformation into the stealth suit, Parker noticed Leeds entering the room and was relieved to have him on board with a plan to expose Beck as a fraud. When Leeds attempted to cover up Parker's identity by claiming there was a costume party, Parker corrected him by openly stating that Jones knew he was Spider-Man. To Leeds' surprise, Jones clarified that she'd been aware of Parker's superhero persona for a long time. Parker informed Leeds that Mysterio was a fraud, emphasizing that despite the news portraying him as a savior, Mysterio was manipulating the public with lies. Explaining that Mysterio employed illusion technology through holographic projection, Parker brought Leeds up to speed. He then asked Leeds to have his aunt call Harrington and fabricate a story about Berlin. Ready to depart, Parker handed over the projector and issued a stern warning to keep the information confidential, swinging out into the city afterward. Conflict with Mysterio. Upon reaching the Prague main railway station, Spider-Man gracefully swung above the tracks, landing on a train that carried him to Berlin. When the train arrived at its destination, Spider-Man dashed atop the cars, leaped off, and web swung across the station. Upon landing, he attempted to engage in conversation with a local, but she was frightened, mistaking him for the Night Monkey. Spider-Man's encounter was interrupted by the arrival of Nick Fury, who offered him a ride in a car. Spider-Man, revealing his face, tried to explain the situation, but Fury asked him to wait until the road was clear. Following Fury's silent directive to put on his seatbelt, Spider-Man inadvertently broke it in his attempt to fasten it, causing a moment of embarrassment. After the journey to Fury's facility, Spider-Man joined him and entered the office. In the meeting with Maria Hill, Spider-Man divulged that Beck was deceiving everyone about being a superhero, including the existence of the elementals. He pointed out that Beck used illusion technology to manipulate public perception, presenting an illusion projector from the Prague battle as evidence. Despite Fury attempting to question Spider-Man's conclusions, he persisted, suggesting that Beck might be employing drones to fabricate further destruction. Upon grasping the gravity of the situation, Spider-Man faced a question from Fury about whether he had disclosed this information to anyone. However, his heightened senses alerted him to imminent danger, prompting him to notify Fury about Beck's arrival. As they braced for impact, confusion ensued as the entire room, including Hill's presence, was exposed as an elaborate illusion. The supposedly secure facility morphed into a construction site. Subsequently, Spider-Man became a target for drone gunfire, resulting in a shot that struck Fury. While Fury remained incapacitated, a drone propelled Spider-Man across the room, causing him to crash onto the pavement several feet below. Despite the pain from the impact, Spider-Man struggled to rise, only to find himself targeted by numerous drones that materialized from nowhere. As Beck discussed Fury's perpetual demise and Spider-Man's resilience, the web slinger attempted to ensnare one of the drones with his webbing. To his shock, the drone skillfully evaded the webs and vanished. Mysterio, still communicating via loudspeaker, taunted Spider-Man about his choices and the impending consequences. The drones, seemingly disappearing into thin air, enveloped Spider-Man in an illusionary realm crafted by Mysterio. In this nightmarish simulation, Spider-Man, donned in his red and blue suit, navigated through a distorted depiction of a school locker room designed by Mysterio. Spotting Mysterio in the hallway, Spider-Man attempted to deploy his webbing, only to find it transformed into harmless green gas with no impact. Spotting Mysterio ahead, Spider-Man attempted to deliver a punch to his face, only to be thwarted by a concrete pillar, revealing the illusory nature of the scene. In the midst of this disorienting environment, he heard a resonant echo of Michelle Jones's voice. Sprinting towards a nearby door, Spider-Man suddenly found himself atop the Eiffel Tower, halting in confusion. As Jones questioned the unfolding events, he steadied himself and confronted Beck, asserting that the illusions were not real. A distressing moment occurred as Mysterio seemingly seized Jones by the neck, prompting Spider-Man to rush to her aid. However, it turned out to be another illusion, causing him to painfully land face first on the ground. Amid Beck's taunts about the uncertainty of reality, Spider-Man found himself transported into a miniature version of Queens. Mysterio's colossal hand emerged through a building, striking Spider-Man and propelling him into a glass wall, entangled in numerous web lines before landing on a car's hood. Ejected from the building, Spider-Man found himself in an empty lot, nursing injuries and fear. The reappearance of Mysterio's drone signaled the resumption of the illusion, manifesting shards of glass that impeded his movements. Spider-Man, feeling vulnerable, confronted imagery of himself within the glass shards. In a surprising turn, he reached out to touch one of the illusions, only to be startled as it pulled him in. Breaking free from its grasp, Spider-Man encountered a mirror version of himself, poised to attack, prompting him to retaliate with a forceful punch. As multiple mirror reflections of himself emerged, they assailed Spider-Man, overwhelming him and stripping away his Stark suit until he was left in his homemade suit. Amid Beck's scornful taunts, Spider-Man witnessed a sequence of statues depicting the founding Avengers being shattered, with Mysterio standing triumphant. Ambushed by Mysterio, Spider-Man skillfully evaded his energy blasts, attempting to counter with his webbing. When Spider-Man deployed his webs to pull Mysterio forward, he fell prey to yet another illusion, avoiding the crane he seemingly manipulated. Dodging Mysterio's energy blasts, Spider-Man tumbled to the ground from an explosive illusion, only to perceive a giant fist about to descend upon him, another deceptive trick. Gazing upward, he encountered Iron Man's gravestone, with Beck insinuating that Stark might have lived if Spider-Man had been more competent. Momentarily fixated on Stark's gravestone, Spider-Man was jolted by the appearance of a zombified hand, followed by Iron Man emerging from the grave. As Iron Man's head transformed into an army of Mysterio figures, Spider-Man found himself disoriented and inadvertently collided with another illusion, causing further harm. Startled to find himself within a snow globe, Spider-Man panicked as buildings emerged closely around him. As Mysterio continued to manipulate Spider-Man's perceptions, the illusion abruptly ceased when Fury intervened, shooting Mysterio in the back. Spider-Man rose to his feet as Europol agents encircled Beck and Nick Fury approached, demanding information about anyone aware of Beck's deception. Feeling bewildered and pressured, Spider-Man reluctantly disclosed Jones, Ned Leeds, and possibly Betty Brant. However, Fury chuckled at Spider-Man's apparent gullibility, revealing that he too was an illusion created by Beck to lower Spider-Man's guard. Beck informed Spider-Man that his friends had to perish for knowing his secret, reigniting the nightmare illusion and diverting Spider-Man from his intended path. Encountering a series of illusions, including a room filled with lockers, shards of glass, and a dimly lit space with disintegrating statues, Spider-Man endured Beck's apologies. As the illusion concluded, Spider-Man was abruptly struck by a speeding train. Despite enduring a powerful impact from the high-speed train, Spider-Man miraculously survived with minimal injuries and crawled back to its side. Gaining access to the train's doorway, Spider-Man entered, unmasking himself to breathe heavily. Now distanced from Beck's illusions, Spider-Man sat down to recover from the pain, but eventually succumbed to his injuries and passed out, creating a new suit. Regaining consciousness after hours of being unconscious, Parker discovered himself in a jail cell alongside 3 soccer fans, one of whom offered his shirt for warmth. Expressing gratitude for their kindness and receiving compliments on his English, Parker learned that he was now in the Netherlands. Anxious about his predicament, he attempted to summon the guard only to find out that the guard was on break. Taking matters into his own hands, Parker broke the lock on the cell and uncovered an inattentive security guard wearing his Spider-Man mask while engaged in a phone call. Despite his injuries, Parker navigated his way to a nearby town, accidentally stepping on animal feces in the process. Seeking assistance, he approached a friendly stranger to borrow their phone. Contemplating who could help him out of this situation, Parker decided to call Happy Hogan, who answered promptly. While conversing, Parker requested the stranger to provide Hogan with their precise location, admitting his struggle to pronounce certain words. Venturing into a secluded field surrounded by tulips, Parker witnessed Hogan's arrival in the Stark Industries private jet. Faced with recent betrayals from Quentin Beck, Parker demanded Hogan prove his authenticity by sharing something only he would know. As Hogan recounted a shared experience at a German hotel, divulging Parker's viewing of an adult film, an embarrassed Parker urged him to cease talking and embraced Hogan for comfort after the challenging ordeal. Inside the jet, Hogan attended to Parker's wounds, skillfully stitching up a gash on his back. Overwhelmed by the pain during the procedure, Parker, advised to relax, rose from his seat and vented his frustration. He expressed his disappointment in failing to prevent Beck from seizing the Edith glasses, anticipating the dire consequences as Beck planned to use them for harm. In a moment of calm, Parker apologized for his emotional outburst and conveyed his deep longing for Tony Stark. Reflecting on his experiences, Parker tearfully shared how Stark's presence seemed omnipresent, prompting questions about whether he was destined to become the next Iron Man. He admitted feeling inadequate to live up to Stark's legacy. Hogan reassured Parker that he could never replace Iron Man and disclosed that Stark himself harbored doubts but never regretted choosing Parker as the successor superhero to safeguard the world and inspire others. Empowered by Hogan's words, Parker stood up with determination, declaring his commitment to defeating Beck. When asked about the next steps, Parker acknowledged the need to avoid contacting his friends, as Beck could be tracking them. Requesting Hogan's phone, Parker discovered that his friends were in London through Flash Thompson's livestream. With this information, Hogan prepared to pilot the jet toward London. Parker then requested a suit from Hogan, prompting him to activate a concealed room housing a suit synthesizer thoughtfully left by Stark. Surprised, Parker instructed the machine to display information on Spider-Man. While perusing various Spider-Man suit designs, he concentrated on the web shooters. Engaged in his work, he glanced back at Hogan, who smiled appreciatively at his inventiveness. Hogan advised Peter to concentrate on the suit while he handled the music, activating Back in Black on the sound system. Parker, upon taking off, mistakenly credited the artist as Led Zeppelin. As the jet soared toward London to confront Beck, Parker instructed the machine to bring up the web shooter's design and upgraded the taser webbing, enhancing voltage and granting complete control over detonation. Upon completing the suit design and awaiting its printing, Parker revealed that he had given Nick Fury a code to indicate when he was being deceived by Beck's lies. Hogan, mentioning his plan to retrieve Parker's friends, was informed that the suit was nearly finished. Later, Parker requested Hogan to give his Black Dahlia necklace to Michelle Jones in case something happened, but Hogan declined, advising him to present it to her once their mission was completed. Once Hogan asked Parker how his plan would go, he explained that all he needs to do is go inside Beck's illusion tech so he could take it down, find Beth, and take Edith back into his hands. While Hogan counteracted his point about him being hit by a train, Parker noted to him about his sixth sense, having Hogan be familiar with it as the Peter Tingle. Being told by his aunt's words, Parker told Hogan that does work, despite him being unsure that it was fully active. As Hogan left for the plan, Parker awaited his new suit. Battle of London. Arriving in London, Spider-Man perched on the side of the Stark Industries private jet with Happy Hogan at the helm as they approached the city. When Hogan inquired about Spider-Man's well-being, he expressed feeling great, and even appreciated Hogan's compliment on his new suit. Upon entering London's airspace, they witnessed the colossal elemental fusion wreaking havoc on the Tower Bridge. Spider-Man quickly discerned that the spectacle wasn't genuine and had grown exponentially larger than he had anticipated. Instructing Hogan to ascend the jet high enough to avoid Mysterio's detection, they soared above the elemental fusion. Spider-Man, anticipating a serious conversation with Hogan and his aunt after the mission, urged Hogan to let go of the jet when it was time. Taking a headfirst plunge into the elemental fusion, Spider-Man activated his new parachute to control his descent and utilized his paraglider to navigate through the illusion. Approaching the illusion with a firm reminder that it wasn't real, Spider-Man collided with one of the combat drones responsible for projecting it. Marveling at the efficiency of the illusion's construction, Spider-Man used his webbing to adhere to a combat drone, leveraging his superhuman agility to link several of them in a row, preparing them for imminent destruction. Having secured the webs on some of the drones, Spider-Man took a moment to detach from the last one he had mounted. Activating his taser webbing's control, Spider-Man initiated the detonation of the electric charge coursing through the connected drones. He landed atop a combat drone, witnessing the illusion dissipating as the interconnected drones exploded. As the illusion faded, revealing a new set of combat drones, Spider-Man spotted Mysterio in his motion capture suit and prepared to confront him inside the room where he was stationed. Unbeknownst to Spider-Man, Mysterio invoked Edith for protection, prompting one of the combat drones to attack him. After being slammed against the wall and falling to the ground, Spider-Man struggled to rise. Agitated by Spider-Man's interference, Mysterio terminated the illusion and commanded the drone fleet to launch an assault on Spider-Man near Tower Bridge. Spider-Man, sensing the danger, contacted Hogan after witnessing a distant explosion, ensuring he was okay and updating him on the friend's location through Flash Thompson's livestream. Recognizing that Mysterio was now targeting him, Spider-Man evaded the barrage of incoming combat drones, leaping and swinging across the cityscape to avoid the crossfire. Seeking refuge behind a car, Spider-Man attempted to contact Hogan once more to ensure his safety, receiving assurance that he and his friends were unharmed. Explaining to Hogan his attempt to reach Mysterio while contending with numerous combat drones, Spider-Man utilized his webs to shoot above and clung onto the car in front of him, swinging it into the drones and obliterating them. Upon landing on the bridge, Spider-Man encountered drones equipped with flamethrowers. Navigating away from the flames by swinging and dodging, Spider-Man found himself caught in the fire and struggled to extinguish it from his suit. Leveraging the capabilities of his upgraded suit, Spider-Man effectively managed the drones, ensnaring them with his webbing and causing them to explode upon impact. Swinging beneath the bridge, he utilized the water to douse the flames on his suit and hopped onto a drone for a ride around the bridge. After the drone he was riding met its demise, Spider-Man deployed his webbing to ensnare and destroy upcoming drones. Now positioned above the two bridges, Spider-Man crafted a web trap between them, swinging up into the interconnected webbing to encase and bring down the drones. The ensuing explosion cleared the airspace and Spider-Man landed confidently, satisfied that he had successfully dealt with the drone threat. After what appeared to be a clear situation, Spider-Man was forcefully pushed back by a combat drone, colliding with a pile of cars and causing him to tumble into the water. Emerging from the water and making his way up to shore, Spider-Man observed the drones aligning to create another illusion. Realizing he was out of web fluid, he assessed his surroundings, seeking a way to reach Mysterio. Spotting a disabled drone emitting a continuous concussion wave, Spider-Man discovered a toy and threw it at the sonic cannon. The drones overhead attacked the projected toy, leading Spider-Man to formulate a plan using the battery from a broken drone and a piece of the Tower Bridge sign. Gathering his makeshift supplies, Spider-Man prepared to charge forward and confront the drones from above. As the drones detected his approach, Spider-Man used the sign as a shield and hurled the battery at them, causing them to self-destruct. With the drones exploding in proximity, Spider-Man employed the sign to propel himself onto one of the upper walkways, shattering the glass floor beneath. Hanging upside down, Spider-Man apprehended Mysterio and damaged his interface dome helmet, deactivating the remaining drones that were penetrating the Jewel House vault. The drones deactivated upon reaching Hogan and Parker's friends. Duel with Mysterio. On the upper walkway of Tower Bridge, Spider-Man elevated Mysterio into the air, having shattered his dome helmet. Despite Spider-Man declaring an end to Mysterio's deception, Mysterio revealed he had contingencies and summoned combat drones through Edith's network, promptly shooting Spider-Man down. Propelled several feet away, Spider-Man rose to his feet, demanding Mysterio surrender the glasses. In response to Mysterio's inquiry about the glasses, Spider-Man observed the disappearance of Mysterio's combat drones and the transformation of the room into a dark void with a green gas shrouding the ground. Recognizing the need to retrieve the glasses, Spider-Man focused and readied himself to utilize his spider sense to navigate through the incoming combat drones. With eyes closed, he sprinted toward the hall, preparing for the impending confrontation. Jumping to the side of the wall, Spider-Man delivered a powerful punch to intercept an incoming drone from below. Employing his superhuman agility and strength, Spider-Man skillfully evaded gunfire and charging drones. Utilizing the pipes on the ceiling for added leverage, he kicked down a drone and immobilized another with his bare hands. Spider-Man grabbed a drone, effortlessly splitting it into two pieces and stabbing any approaching drone that crossed his path. As the illusory darkness dissipated, Spider-Man wielded a drone as a makeshift shield, fending off incoming fire until he broke free and pushed one away. Seizing the opportunity when a drone shot down Mysterio, Spider-Man engaged in a brief struggle with another, ultimately being propelled against the ceiling. The impact caused a cascade effect, knocking down incoming drones and culminating in the destruction of the final drone on the walkway. Standing over Mysterio, Spider-Man inquired about the motives behind Mysterio's actions. Mysterio, acknowledging Spider-Man's inquiry and expressing agreement with his behavior, conceded that Spider-Man deserved the glasses all along. Spider-Man, relying on his heightened senses, sensed his surroundings as Mysterio prepared to hand over the glasses. With a quick and sure motion, Spider-Man grabbed Mysterio's wrist without looking and confronted him, asserting his immunity to Mysterio's illusions. As the illusory facade unraveled, Spider-Man took possession of the glasses and instructed Edith to deactivate the drones. Upon completing the biometric scan after donning the glasses, Spider-Man was prompted to execute cancellation protocols for the remaining combat drones. Confirming his intent, Spider-Man issued the command to Edith, and he observed the drones, now deactivated, returning to the Stark Industries satellite hovering in space above the Tower Bridge. Relieved to witness the disappearance of all the drones, Spider-Man removed the glasses and turned back toward Mysterio, who had collapsed from his injuries. Spider-Man now inquired how Mysterio orchestrated such elaborate illusions, and Mysterio explained that people crave belief, emphasizing the contemporary tendency for individuals to believe almost anything. Mysterio succumbed to his injuries and passed away. Wearing the glasses, Spider-Man sought confirmation from Edith regarding the authenticity of Mysterio's death and was assured that all illusions had ceased. With the crisis averted, Parker exited the walkway and entered the Tower Bridge, where he encountered Michelle Jones. The two embraced, and Parker checked on the well-being of others. Listening as Jones confirmed the survival of their friends, Parker learned that the drones had attacked her but abruptly ceased. He revealed that he was the one who halted the drones. Jones mentioned that Happy Hogan gave her a Black Dahlia necklace, and Parker felt disappointed that it broke. He then shared his entire plan of intending to give it to her in Paris. However, Jones surprised him with a kiss, explaining that she found it challenging to get attached to people and wasn't drawn to him just because he's Spider-Man. Expressing their feelings, Parker and Jones shared a passionate kiss before continuing with their trip. Leaving Europe. Concluding the European trip from Midtown High School, Parker rejoined his group and boarded the airplane for their journey home. Parker and Jones, exhausted from the trip, took a nap during the flight, leaning on each other for support. They shared a chuckle over their travel adventures and continued to rest for the duration of their journey. They landed back in Newark, New Jersey, where they prepared to greet their respective families. Parker and Jones strolled together in the airport, intertwining their fingers to symbolize their newfound relationship. As the rest of the group reunited with their families, Parker inquired if anyone had discovered his secret identity. Jones reassured him that no one had, as he often goes unnoticed, except by her, for which he expressed gratitude. As Jones departed from the airport, Parker was complimented by Betty Brant and how cute they looked together. This prompted him to suggest a double date with Brant and Ned Leeds. However, he learned that the two had broken up, and they shared insights about how men and women might grow apart on their journeys. Exiting the airport to find his aunt, Peter located her as she was obtaining a ticket, embracing her in relief. He assured her that he felt fine before she inquired about his bags, only to remember that they had been destroyed. Identity crisis. Date with MJ. A week after his return from Europe, Parker delivered a reflective monologue at home, expressing his weariness with maintaining a guarded identity and facing numerous deceptions. Frustrated with the web of lies, he initiated an intervention with his Aunt May and friend Happy Hogan, contemplating the possibility of them becoming a couple. Upon questioning his aunt about their relationship, May clarified that they weren't dating, leaving Hogan perplexed. Parker, confused by the unclear dynamic, observed May and Hogan engage in a discussion about their status. May appeared uncertain about where Hogan intended to take their brief romance, while Hogan rationalized the potential for the relationship to grow. The conversation grew awkward as it became evident that Hogan was stuck at the friendship level with May. Seizing the opportunity, Parker excused himself, mentioning a date with Michelle Jones, and hurriedly departed. After Spider-Man's somewhat awkward exit, he swung over to Jones, pulling out his phone to capture a selfie while web-swinging. Continuing to traverse great heights and run along building walls, Spider-Man issued an apology to employees inside a building he swung past. As he continued web-slinging across New York City, a text from Jones warned him against texting and swinging, almost causing him to collide with a bus. Swiftly evading the obstacle, Spider-Man ran atop the bus, resuming his web-swinging adventure. Scaling a building to gather momentum, Spider-Man deployed his webbing at the summit and traversed along the rooftop's side. Approaching his intended destination, Spider-Man activated his web wings, gliding through a newly created opening in the former Avengers Tower towards Grand Central Terminal. Descending, he landed on a street pole and gracefully spun down to the sidewalk to join Jones. Now on solid ground, Spider-Man met Jones on the sidewalk, apologizing for his lateness. Jones reassured him that it was not an issue. He inquired if she was ready, and upon her affirmation, he assured her that she would enjoy it. Initiating their date, Spider-Man swung across the city with Jones, who experienced heightened fear due to the speed. Their journey led them over to City Hall, where Jones, gripping Spider-Man's hand, screamed in terror. After some time passed, Spider-Man was informed by Michelle Jones that he could set her down, prompting him to land near Madison Square Garden. Checking in on her well-being, Spider-Man received assurance from Jones, who admitted not enjoying the exhilarating ride. The two agreed mutually to never repeat the experience. Spider-Man bid farewell to Jones, perching atop a light post and waving goodbye as she walked away. Public enemy number 1. Observing the unfolding news on the NY1 station, Spider-Man pivoted to face the external television monitor within the stadium. Attentively listening to news anchor Pat Kiernan's coverage of the London attack, Spider-Man absorbed information about an anonymous source providing a video capturing Mysterio's final moments before his demise. In the video, Mysterio accused Spider-Man of killing him and orchestrating a crisis to position himself as the next Iron Man. As Kiernan delved into the origin of the footage, citing the controversial online news site The Daily Bugle, the tabloid's host, J. Jonah Jameson, unequivocally implicated Spider-Man in Mysterio's murder, labeling him as a threat and questioning his motives to succeed the iconic superhero Iron Man. Jameson continued his tirade as the broadcast featured additional footage, revealing Mysterio disclosing Spider-Man's civilian identity, leaving Parker visibly shocked and distressed in a public setting. Observing Jones below, Parker witnessed the crowds converging around her, fielding inquiries about whether she was Spider-Man's girlfriend. Swiftly descending from the light post, Parker navigated through the agitated crowd to reach Jones. Some individuals angrily accused him of Mysterio's death, leading to shoving and confrontations. A woman even attempted to unmask him in public, prompting her to falsely claim that he attacked her, despite Parker acting in self-defense. Securing Jones, Parker swung away through Times Square, passing jumbotrons that exposed his identity and tagged him as public enemy number 1, alongside billboards referencing Rogers the Musical. In the midst of their escape, Parker suggested seeking refuge at Jones's house. However, she declined, noting that her father harbored a strong dislike for Parker now that his identity was revealed. Thinking on his feet, Parker landed atop the Queensboro Bridge. While on the bridge, Parker received a FaceTime video call from an anxious Ned Leeds, grappling with the consequences of the revelation. In the midst of Parker's panic with Leeds, Jones interjected, reminding him of the awkward height he had left her in. Turning around, Parker ensured her safety just as WLGJ helicopters began to encircle them. Together, Parker and Jones leapt from the bridge, swinging their way into the subway station below and narrowly avoiding an oncoming train. Escaping through a sewer hole in the street, they emerged right in front of the newly reopened Delmar's Deli Grocery, swinging off towards his apartment. Upon reaching his apartment, Parker assisted Jones in sneaking inside through his bedroom window. As Parker changed out of his suit, Happy Hogan and his aunt opened the door, thinking they need privacy for a potentially intimate moment. Putting on a shirt, Parker awkwardly clarified to his aunt that they weren't doing what she assumed, inviting her inside to meet Jones. In the living room, Parker pressed for an explanation on their breakup, only to discover that WLGJ helicopters were circling his apartment. Using his web shooters to close the blinds, Parker's aunt and Hogan realized that the world now knew about Parker's dual identity as Spider-Man. Sometime later, Parker left the apartment in his suit to capture a drug dealer. Rather than being thanked for his heroics, he got into an argument with some pedestrians regarding his age, as a Mysterio supporter ambushed him by jumping out and splashing green paint across his suit, much to Parker's annoyance and frustration. Represented by Matt Murdock. As Parker and his aunt turned on the news regarding the incident, their apartment became the focus of an investigation by the United States Department of Damage Control, leading to the confiscation of all of Parker's equipment. Later on, Parker, his aunt, Ned Leeds, and Michelle Jones found themselves in damage control custody due to a warrant facing various charges. They were transported to the NYPD precinct where Agent P. Cleary attempted to interrogate Parker regarding the drones used in the Battle of London. To Parker's astonishment, when he tried to convey the truth, mentioning Nick Fury as a witness, he learned that Fury had been off-planet for a year. Before he could elaborate further, his aunt, Leeds, and Jones walked by, advising him not to speak without a lawyer. Subsequently, Parker sought the legal representation of Matt Murdock, who successfully had his criminal charges dismissed. Despite the resolution of the legal troubles by Murdock, he cautioned Parker that the court of public opinion could still pose challenges. Additionally, Hogan would require a formidable lawyer to defend against potential lawsuits, since it was Hogan's responsibility that Parker utilized Stark tech, which could have caused damage. In a surprising turn of events, a Mysterio supporter threw a brick into the apartment window aimed at Parker, but the blind Murdock skillfully intercepted the brick before it reached Parker. When Parker questioned Murdock about this feat, the lawyer simply stated that he was exceptionally skilled. Interviewed by Betty Brandt. Subsequently, Betty Brant, one of his classmates, conducted an interview with Parker for the Daily Bugle. She inquired whether he would express gratitude to the spider that had bitten him, granting him superpowers. Parker responded affirmatively, stating that he would thank the spider as it enabled him to save people. However, Brant interjected, attempting to steer Parker away from a controversy by urging him to indicate that he would not thank the spider. This maneuver by Brant left Parker somewhat perplexed. Condominium relocation. After receiving a security warning from Murdoch and facing an aggressive pro-Mysterio crowd at their previous apartment, Parker and May relocated to Happy Hogan's condominium, where Hogan generously offered them support. Upon reaching Hogan's residence, Parker attempted to clean his soiled Spider-Man suit but found the task insurmountable, eventually abandoning the effort due to a strong sense of repulsion. Parker stumbled upon a Stark fabricator in Hogan's apartment workshop, resembling the one he had used to craft an upgraded suit for himself. He realized its potential to create almost anything he desired, leaving him in awe. Later in the evening, Parker contacted Jones and they discussed their applications to MIT, their preferred institute. Reflecting on the challenges he faced since the radioactive spider bite, Parker shared with Jones that the only time he felt normal was the week when she and others knew about his identity as Spider-Man. However, their conversation was disrupted by Hogan, who urged them to conclude as he needed his 8 hours of sleep, revealing that he'd been listening the whole time, much to Parker's surprise. College admission problems. Having successfully cleared his criminal charges, Parker embarked on his first day of senior year at Midtown School of Science and Technology after summer break. As he, Jones, Leeds, and Flash Thompson navigated through a crowd of pro-Mysterio supporters hurling derogatory comments and branding Parker as the devil in disguise, along with inappropriate behavior towards Jones, Parker felt frustrated. NYPD officers intervened for crowd control and escorted them inside. Later, Parker was astonished to encounter Roger Harrington and Julius Dell, extending a warm welcome and expressing their honor to serve him. In contrast, Andre Wilson, a Mysterio supporter, accused Parker of murder. To Parker's annoyance, he found that Harrington had created a mural featuring him with pictures, accolades, and statues under his name, giving him the freedom to do as he pleased. Students began taking pictures as he walked down the hall. Overwhelmed by the newfound fame, Parker and Jones sought refuge on the rooftop. They discussed and laughed about the controversy surrounding Spider-Man, including unfounded claims that he could hypnotize females. Just as they were about to kiss, their moment was interrupted by Leeds, who arrived with his own privacy-related concerns. After his exoneration, Parker, Jones, and Leeds submitted applications to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and other alternative institutes, aiming for a fresh start in Boston. With the hope of continuing his role as Spider-Man and maintaining a joyful life with his friends, Parker remained optimistic despite the recent controversies. Jones cautioned him to prepare for potential disappointment, urging him to anticipate to avoid future letdowns. Despite his friend's skepticism, Parker maintained his optimism, confident that they would be accepted. To Parker's surprise, the applications of himself, Jones, and Leeds were consistently rejected by every institute due to his association with Mysterio, despite his stellar academic performance. Undeterred, Parker chose to keep his resilience intact, waiting anxiously for his MIT application form. Every time his aunt returned from checking the mail, he felt a sense of anticipation and concern. Finally, upon receiving his MIT form, Parker hurriedly headed to Peter Pan Donut and Pastry Shop, the cafe where Jones was employed. He planned a rendezvous with her and Leeds, intending to open their letters together as friends, bracing themselves for the future. To his astonishment, Peter not only learned that he was rejected due to his direct connection to Mysterio's demise, but also that his friends were facing a similar decline. Despite their excellent grades, the recent controversy cast a shadow, leading to their rejection from the Institute. Multiversal Crisis, Seeking Doctor Strange. After noticing Halloween decorations featuring a wizard, Parker contemplated seeking help from Doctor Strange and used his phone to locate the New York Sanctum. Upon arriving, he searched for a doorbell, but the doors opened automatically, revealing the sanctum filled with snow and ice. Inside, he observed a young woman and man clearing the snow and then was greeted by Wong, who arrived through an interdimensional portal. Wondering about the situation, Parker inquired, and Wong explained that a blizzard from Siberia had accidentally been transported in. Strange descended using levitation and welcomed Parker. To his surprise, Parker discovered that Strange was no longer the Sorcerer Supreme, having blipped, and Wong had assumed the title. Parker then addressed Strange as Sir, but Strange, citing their shared experiences in the Infinity War and Battle of Earth, encouraged a more casual approach. Parker opted for Steven and proceeded to inquire about the possibility of reversing time to prevent Mysterio from exposing his identity. However, Strange informed him that he no longer possessed the Time Stone. Instead, Strange mentioned a memory spell called the Runes of Kofkal, which Wong cautioned against, deeming it too perilous. Despite Wong's concerns, Strange pleaded with him, noting that they had successfully used it before at Kamar Taj. Reluctantly, Wong agreed before departing for Camartage through another portal. Tampering with the spell. Doctor Strange guided Peter to a lower level of the sanctum to initiate the Runes of Kafkal, aiming to erase everyone's memory of Parker as Spider-Man, including his aunt, best friend, and girlfriend. In a panic, Parker pleaded with Strange to allow them to retain their memories. However, he then expressed concern about Happy Hogan's recollection and suddenly declared that everyone who knew before should still remember. Parker's impulsive actions resulted in the spell becoming unstable, causing damage to the fabric of the multiverse. This instability led to individuals from other universes who knew Spider-Man's identity to manifest in their own. Though Strange managed to temporarily mend the unstable spell and close the rift, it was evident that the spell was incomplete. Realizing the failure of the spell, Parker questioned Strange about why it didn't work, only to discover that his exceptions had disrupted its success. To Parker's surprise and embarrassment, Strange suggested a simple solution, asking out the MIT administrator to influence the admission of Jones and Leeds, a decision that would have likely worked. Struck by this revelation, Parker found himself promptly ejected from the sanctum, appealing to MIT. Despite being ousted from the sanctum, a determined Peter conceived the idea of seeking out someone at MIT to advocate for the reconsideration of Leeds and Jones's application. Acting swiftly, Parker dialed a busy Flash Thompson and requested the contact information for the MIT Assistant Vice Chancellor, hoping to plead the case for his friends. Encountering some initial reluctance from Thompson, Parker eventually struck a deal, agreeing to publicly acknowledge Thompson as his best friend. This arrangement left Parker somewhat frustrated. Thompson disclosed that the MIT Assistant Vice Chancellor had departed for the airport and sent Parker a picture of her to aid in locating her. Learning that she was currently on the Alexander Hamilton Bridge en route to the airport, Parker suited up in his Iron Spider armor and swiftly made his way to the bridge. Upon landing, he acknowledged a news helicopter and offered a wave. With the Stark Network office, Parker couldn't rely on the Iron Spider's technological abilities to locate the Assistant Vice Chancellor, necessitating a manual search. Parker identified her car and approached, knocking on her window to engage in conversation. He endeavored to persuade her to reconsider the rejected applications of Michelle Jones and Ned Leeds. Suddenly, Parker's spider sense tingled with a warning of imminent danger, observing people fleeing from the bridge. Battling Dr. Octopus. Parker activated his Iron Spider armor just as Dr. Octopus emerged from beneath the bridge, inquiring about his machine, leaving Spider-Man perplexed. Dr. Octopus promptly launched an attack, utilizing his tentacles to hurl cars at Spider-Man, who had to maneuver adeptly to dodge them or rescue civilians still inside. Amid the distractions, Dr. Octopus ensnared Spider-Man with a tentacle and threw him toward a UPS truck, taunting him about missing an opportunity to eliminate his girlfriend. Believing Dr. Octopus referred to Michelle Jones, an incensed Spider-Man initiated an intense battle, employing his spider legs against the tentacles. However, upon learning that the MIT representative was trapped in a plummeting car, Spider-Man swiftly rushed to her aid. Though he managed to save her almost entirely, Dr. Octopus seized him, attempting to force him into the spinning blades of a nearby helicopter. Spider-Man skillfully freed himself from Dr. Octopus's clutches, catching a car with his web while further evading attacks. While the woman remained relatively safe, Spider-Man became vulnerable to Dr. Octopus's attacks, as he pinned him down to the bridge with his tentacle. Dr. Octopus inflicted damage to the armor, causing the nanites in the armor to interface with his tentacles. Attempting to eliminate Spider-Man, Dr. Octopus aimed to impale a vulnerable spot, yet the nanites in his mask provided protection. Upon seeing Spider-Man unmasked, Dr. Octopus expressed confusion, stating that he wasn't the Peter Parker he knew, leaving Spider-Man perplexed. Seizing Dr. Octopus's momentary confusion, Spider-Man linked his suit with the nanites attached to the tentacles, gaining control over them. As a result, Dr. Octopus lost command over the tentacles, rendering him less threatening. Spider-Man then used the tentacles to swiftly return him and the MIT representative to the bridge. Suddenly, Green Goblin emerged on the bridge, hurling one of his pumpkin bombs to create an explosion, and swiftly approached Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus using his glider. Tracking multiversal trespassers. Right before Green Goblin could launch an attack on Spider-Man, both Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus found themselves transported to the New York Sanctum, where Dr. Strange had confined Dr. Octopus and Lizard. Strange explained to Parker that Octopus, Green Goblin, and Lizard, discovered in the sewers, originated from parallel realities within the multiverse. The failed spell had pulled them into their reality since they knew Spider-Man's true identity, leaving Parker in awe that the multiverse was indeed real. Recruiting Parker to aid in capturing these visitors, Strange granted him a magic-based upgrade to his suit, allowing one web shot to transport his foes back to the Sanctum. Emphasizing that it was Parker's responsibility to fix the situation he caused, Strange urged him to apprehend the remaining villains before reality suffered irreparable damage. Parker agreed to assist Strange, acknowledging that he was ready to address the consequences of his actions but needed some assistance. Parker opted to bring Michelle Jones and Ned Leeds into the fold, relying on their past experiences to provide insights into the villains. They were all brought to the Sanctum, where Strange tasked them with addressing the consequences of the spell. Despite Parker's attempt to withhold details about the spell, Strange ultimately divulged the information. To Parker's relief, his friends handled this revelation well, with Jones persuading Strange to ask for help more gently, attributing the spell's mishap to his role as the caster, bringing delight to Parker. Descending to the Undercroft, alongside Jones and Leeds, Parker sought to apologize for involving them in the spell. Much to his relief, Jones and Leeds swiftly forgave him, understanding his good intentions. Jones suggested that in the future, Parker should consider involving them from the start to collectively solve problems, a suggestion he gladly embraced. Later, Parker, Jones, and Leeds enjoyed lighthearted moments and were introduced to the two captured villains, Dr. Octopus and Lizard. As Parker geared up to apprehend the villains, his attempt to clean out his soiled suit proved futile, prompting him to temporarily turn it inside out. May Parker assured him that she would handle the cleaning later. Subsequently, Leeds identified suspicious activity at a military research facility outside New York City, suspecting the individual was the villain encountered on the bridge. However, during the discussion, Dr. Octopus interjected, dismissing the notion that Norman Osborn could be alive. He explained that in his universe, Osborn was a megalomaniacal villain who met his demise after being impaled by his own glider in a confrontation with his Spider-Man. Dr. Octopus suggested that they might be encountering someone else, or figuratively speaking, going out to battle ghosts, leaving Parker in shock. Capture of Sandman and Electro. Successfully tracing the presence of an individual to a military research area, Spider-Man swung out of the city and ventured into the woods, where he encountered Electro, a being composed of pure energy drawing power from electrical lines. Due to Electro's energy composition, Spider-Man's attempts to transport the villain to the New York Sanctum failed, as the web passed through his energy form. Electro launched a relentless assault on Spider-Man, unleashing continuous electric blasts, compelling the web-slinger to navigate through the trees to evade the attacks. In the ensuing struggle, Electro gained the upper hand by cornering Spider-Man and delivering a blast that severed his communication with Jones and Leeds. However, just as Electro prepared to deliver the final blow, Sandman intervened, shielding the young hero, mistaking him for the Peter Parker he knew. Sandman erected a protective barrier against the electricity, prompting Spider-Man to seek his assistance in subduing Electro. Committing to resolving matters with Sandman, the duo collaborated to sever the power lines, successfully restoring Electro to his normal state. Parker and Sandman observed as Electro descended to the ground to join them. Observing the situation, Electro received an explanation from Parker about being from another universe. Upon Electro's observation of lacking clothes, Parker located a nearby construction suit, which he handed to him. Utilizing a device, Parker then sent Electro to the Sanctum. Witnessing this, Sandman, misunderstanding the situation, confronted Parker about his actions, only to be promptly teleported away as well. Parker contacted Michelle Jones, inquiring about the safe arrival of Electro and Sandman at the Sanctum, receiving confirmation. Expressing gratitude for her assistance and acknowledging that he couldn't have accomplished it without her, Parker decided to clean up the area to preserve his clean record before the media could take any action against him. Opting to stay at the electrical tower, Spider-Man informed Jones that he would be dealing with Norman Osborn later on. Meeting Norman Osborn. The following morning, Parker diligently worked on repairing the damage from the previous battle using his webbing. May Parker urgently called him to the Feast Community Center, informing him that one of the individuals he sought had arrived there. Concerned for his aunt's safety, Spider-Man quickly headed to the Feast Community Center. To his relief, May was unharmed, but he was surprised to find her conversing with one of the displaced individuals from another universe. Upon learning the man's first name from his aunt, Parker identified him as Norman Osborn. He was on the verge of expressing surprise about Osborn being alive based on information from Doc Ock. However, before he could do so, Osborn revealed that he had come to Feast seeking Spider-Man, thinking he could assist him. Parker was astonished that Osborn wanted Spider-Man's help, and his aunt explained that Osborn had wandered into the building. Listening to Osborn's explanation about being lost in this universe without a home, life, or family, Parker absorbed the unexpected turn of events. Upon learning about Osborn's predicament, Parker felt a sense of guilt for inadvertently separating him from his family and life. Osborn revealed the existence of his dual personalities, and Parker realized that it was Osborn under the control of his alter ego, the Green Goblin, on the bridge. Discussing the matter with May, Parker explained that the other villains also had their own mental and physical struggles. May emphasized that the intruders from the multiverse were troubled individuals in need of assistance. However, Spider-Man, believing that the responsibility lay with Doctor Strange, argued that Osborn and the others could find their help in their respective home universes. When May questioned whether sending them back was genuinely for their benefit or his own, Parker hesitated, unable to provide a clear answer. Despite his aunt's encouragement to help others, Parker remained firm in his decision, insisting that he should turn Osborn over to him. Battle for the Machina de Cadavis. May Parker drove Peter and Norman to the New York Sanctum, where Parker retrieved his cleaned suit. Expressing gratitude to May, he then escorted Osborn to the Undercroft, introduced him to Ned Leeds and Michelle Jones. Upon learning that Osborn recognized his girlfriend's initials, Parker was not only surprised by the existence of another version of MJ in his universe, but also the revelation that MJ could stand for a different name, Mary Jane. Additionally, Parker discovered that Osborn, along with Dr. Octopus and Electro, had been spared from death in their respective Spider-Man universes. This revelation shocked him, leading him to question Doctor Strange's motives. When Strange arrived with the Machina de Cadavis, he explained to Spider-Man that these three were destined to die in battle against their Spider-Man counterparts, and his plan was to reverse the spell, sending them back to meet their fates for the greater good of the multiverse. Unconvinced and believing in the possibility of curing their antagonistic natures, Spider-Man seized the box containing the spell before Strange could use it and fled. Dashing outside the sanctum to escape, Spider-Man was halted by Strange, who demanded he surrender the box. Ignoring the request, Spider-Man faced two interdimensional portals summoned by Strange's sling ring, followed by an eldritch whip that brought him down. Knocked into the astral dimension, Parker initially believed he was done for, but was astonished to discover his ability to move autonomously. Determined to prevent Strange, equally surprised, from seizing the box, he flew towards his own body. Attempting to swing away, Spider-Man encountered resistance from the Cloak of Levitation, which wrapped around his shoulders, attempting to pull him back down. Successful freeing himself, he tried to escape, but Strange opened the mirror dimension, pulling Spider-Man into its tumultuous expanse. Free-falling through the dimension, Spider-Man crashed into various structures within the city, including a shopping mall and other buildings. After plunging into Central Park, Strange conjured a portal, allowing a subway train to pass through and strike Spider-Man, temporarily separating him from the box. As Spider-Man reclaimed the box, the Cloak attempted to snatch it, and Strange kept sending him through portals while the Cloak persisted in trying to secure it. Ultimately, Spider-Man manipulated the portals to collide, shattering the dimension. The collision severed the connection to the box and transported them to the Grand Canyon in Arizona. Opening another portal, Strange assured Spider-Man that he would return for him later. Unperturbed, Spider-Man saw an opportunity in the situation, exploring the mathematical possibilities to ensnare someone within the dimension. Employing geometry, Spider-Man wove a matrix of webs to entangle Strange. With the box in hand, he prepared to enter the open portal. Despite Strange's objections, Spider-Man used his web to take the sling ring from him and departed the dimension. Before leaving, Parker apologized to Strange for the situation, but emphasized the need to help the group before sending them back to their universes. Attempting to alter fates. After the confrontation, Spider-Man briefed Ned Leeds and Michelle Jones on the recent events when they inquired about his whereabouts. He informed them about the clash with Doctor Strange, emphasizing his victory. Parker shared that he had acquired Strange's sling ring, handing it over to Leeds. Describing his experience in the mirror dimension, he revealed that Strange was trapped, though uncertain about the duration. When Dr. Octopus questioned Spider-Man's motive for saving them instead of allowing Strange to send them home, Jones asserted that such a choice didn't align with Parker's character. Parker expressed his willingness to help the group, explaining that if he could rectify their situations, they might avoid the fate of perishing in battles against their respective Spider-Men. Addressing Electro's query about what he meant by fixing them, Parker outlined the advanced technology in this universe. However, Norman Osborn, genuinely wanting to aid the group, particularly Octavius, intervened. Osborn offered his assistance in Parker's plan to cure the group. Despite his surprise at Osborn's willingness to help, Parker accepted his offer for assistance. Upon discovering that Lizard, who initially doubted his plan to assist the group, possessed the ability to communicate, and in response to Electro's inquiry about his strategy, Parker assured them that he had everything under control. Subsequently, he conferred with Jones and Leeds regarding the Machina de Cadavis, collectively agreeing to safeguard it from the villains. To ensure the safety of his friends and to avoid placing them in jeopardy, Parker entrusted them with the responsibility of protecting it and instructed them to wait, ready to activate the button if necessary to send the displaced individuals back to their universes. Performing his signature handshake with Leeds and sharing a kiss with Jones, he bid them farewell. Turning to the displaced villains, Parker disclosed his plan, securing their agreement to accompany him. Releasing them from confinement, he contacted his aunt to arrange transportation for the group. Together with May Parker, he transported Electro, Lizard, Sandman, Dr. Octopus, and Osborn to Happy Hogan's condominium in an attempt to find a cure. Parker intended to use the Stark Industries fabricator he had discovered earlier in his friend's apartment to execute his plan. Upon arrival, Parker expressed concern to his aunt about utilizing Hogan's place in this manner, but May assured him that their friend would understand. As everyone settled into the condominium, Dr. Octopus questioned Parker about his plan, expressing skepticism about using a condominium instead of a lab or facility. Octopus voiced concerns that Parker might have sinister intentions, fearing he was plotting to harm them, a possibility Parker denied. Parker chose to commence his efforts with Dr. Octopus, who acknowledged that he needed fixing. Accompanied by Aunt May, Osborn, and Electro, Parker led them to the room where he previously located the fabricator. There, he demonstrated his plan to utilize the technology to cure the group of villains. While explaining the fabricator's purpose to Osborn and Electro, Parker unintentionally damaged the kitchen wall, eliciting terror from Dr. Octopus. Octopus became convinced that Parker intended to harm them. As Electro, Sandman, and Dr. Octopus socialized in the living room, and Lizard remained in the feast truck, Parker identified the root cause of Octavius' problems. He informed Osborn that the chip in the back of Octavius' neck, designed to safeguard his brain from the Tentacles AI, had malfunctioned, allowing the Tentacles to control him. Collaborating with Osborn, Peter used the fabricator to create a new chip for Octavius. Having completed a new chip for Octavius with Osborn's assistance, Parker requested Aunt May's help to help set up Dr. Octopus for the administration of the chip, despite Octavius' initial reluctance. Peter removed the original inhibitor chip crafted by Octavius, but faced challenges while inserting the new one as Dr. Octopus kept moving his head. After managing to secure the new chip onto his neck by steadying his head, Octavius fell unconscious. Before Parker could check on him, Octavius regained consciousness. Relieved to see him awake, Parker was pleased that the chip had successfully restored his mind. Following Octavius' suit upgrade, which returned the nanites taken from the Iron Spider armor, Parker received gratitude from him for restoring his control. Octavius offered assistance in curing the remaining villains, including Osborn, an offer that Parker accepted. Collaborating with Octavius and Osborn, Parker worked on curing Connors, Dylan, and Marco, even developing an anti-serum for the latter to fully restore his sanity. Upon completion of Dylan's cure, Parker engaged in conversation with him in the kitchen. However, when informed of another cure being ready, Parker left the kitchen for the back room. There, he discovered that Marco's cure was nearing completion and decided to make some adjustments before administering it, losing everything. Just before completing Flint Marco's cure, Parker's spider sense went into overdrive, prompting him to abruptly stop his actions. Reacting with urgency, Parker stood up in a panic, drawing the attention of Otto Octavius and Norman Osborn, who noticed his distress. Inquisitive about the cause, Octavius and Osborn questioned Parker, who admitted he didn't know. Fearing potential danger, Parker quickly called his aunt, who was on the stairs, to ensure her safety. Concerned for their friends, Octavius and Osborn followed Parker into the living room. Parker scanned the living room for the source of the threat. Unable to visually identify the culprit, Spider-Man closed his eyes, relying on his heightened senses and reflexes to guide him. The source of danger was unveiled to be Osborn. Reluctantly responding to his senses, Spider-Man fired a web shot at Osborn, exposing the re-emergence of the Green Goblin alter ego from within his mind. Recognizing a shift in Osborn's voice, Parker realized that Green Goblin, the alter ego he'd been informed about earlier, had taken control. As they listened, Green Goblin taunted Parker, May, and Octavius for aiding Osborn in suppressing his power. Upon hearing Green Goblin taunt him about power, Parker refuted that he didn't know him. However, Green Goblin contradicted him, claiming he witnessed how Aunt May trapped him and argued against her moral mission. Parker listened as Green Goblin asserted that their powers, along with others, were not diseases but gifts, making them akin to gods. Shocked, Parker warned his aunt to run, sensing the impending threat that Green Goblin posed. Convinced by Green Goblin's ideology, Electro attacked Octavius, hurling him out a window, and Sandman hastily retreated. Simultaneously, Spider-Man engaged in a fierce battle with Green Goblin, their brutal confrontation unfolding throughout the entire building. Spider-Man discovered Green Goblin's formidable power, compelling him to unleash his full strength in response. Thrown out of a window by Green Goblin, Spider-Man clung to the building's side, only to notice the Daily Bugle below, capturing the unfolding chaos. Suddenly attacked by Lizard, who acknowledged Spider-Man's inability to help them, he was tossed back in through a window. The relentless battle between Spider-Man and Green Goblin continued, crashing through multiple levels until reaching the first. Before Green Goblin could choke him to death, Aunt May rushed to their aid and stabbed Green Goblin with the initial version of the cure. Unfortunately, it proved ineffective, and Green Goblin summoned his Goblin Glider. In a tragic turn of events, he struck May, causing fatal injuries. Green Goblin then hurled a pumpkin bomb, escaped, and Parker attempted to catch it, resulting in the foyer's collapse. Upon regaining consciousness, Spider-Man checked on May, who initially reassured him. She acknowledged his decision not to send the villains back to their universes, emphasizing the responsibility that comes with great power. May collapsed from her wounds, and as Spider-Man called for help, it was too late. In his arms, May passed away, but not before reassuring her nephew that he did the right thing. As Happy Hogan arrived to witness Spider-Man mourning over May's death, ruthless damage control agents appeared. They forcibly removed Hogan from his car and arrested him. Hogan urged Spider-Man to run, which he reluctantly did, sustaining a shoulder injury. Leaving May's lifeless body under a barrage of bullets from the armed agents, Spider-Man fled the scene, meeting other Spider-Men. Devastated by the loss of May Parker, a shattered Spider-Man retreated to the top of a building, where he watched J. Jonah Jameson's report on the recent tragedy on a massive screen. Consumed by guilt for his aunt's death and the chaos he inadvertently unleashed while trying to save the villains who betrayed him, he stood in the pouring rain. Seeking solace, he made his way to the rooftop of the Midtown School of Science and Technology, where he openly wept. Eventually, Ned Leeds and Michelle Jones discovered him and offered hugs and comfort. Two alternate versions of Spider-Man from the universes of the villains approached him. Feeling hopeless about saving the villains and believing his aunt's death was in vain, Spider-Man informed his alternate selves of his intention to use the Machina de Cadavis from Doctor Strange to return everyone to their respective universes, regardless of their fates. However, the alternate Parkers shared their own stories of loss. One spoke of his inability to save his uncle Ben Parker, while the other recounted his failure to save his girlfriend Gwen Stacy, leading him down a dark and violent path. They urge Spider-Man not to follow the same destructive journey, emphasizing the importance of responsibility. Reminding him of May's words, "With great power comes great responsibility," they assured him that May's sacrifice was not in vain if they could prevent further harm. Midtown Lab Project. Renewed in spirit, Parker, alongside Leeds, Jones, and the two other Spider-Men, chose to utilize the chemistry classroom at Midtown School of Science and Technology to prepare for their impending final battle against the villains. Their objective was to develop anti-serums to counteract the power of their adversaries. Leveraging their knowledge of their respective villains, they successfully devised cures, assigning tasks such as one Parker handling Lizard and the eldest Parker dealing with Green Goblin, citing meticulous planning on his part. Although initially hesitant to entrust Green Goblin's cure to the eldest Parker, Parker eventually relented. While his fellow Spider-Men worked on the cures for the other villains, Parker focused on repairing the devices he had previously created for Electro and Sandman. With the assistance of his friends and the two additional Spider-Men, they collaborated on developing cures. Wrestling with guilt over the consequences of his actions, Parker confided in Jones, expressing concern that she and their allies did not deserve to suffer. In response, Jones offered reassuring support, urging Parker to look at her and assuring him that they would navigate through the challenges together, emphasizing her commitment to stay by his side. Later, as Leeds readied the web fluid cartridges for the team, Parker was astonished to discover that the eldest Spider-Man had the ability to produce webbing organically. This revelation left Parker in shock, prompting the Amazing Spider-Man to question the functionality of organic webbing. Before further inquiries could be made, Parker decided to press on with the planning, prompting a visit to the Statue of Liberty, a symbolic representation of second chances, and intending to employ the Machina de Cadavus as bait. To Parker's surprise, Leeds suggested using Doctor Strange's sling ring to create a portal to the destination. In an unexpected turn, Leeds assured Parker that he had no intentions of turning into a supervillain and harming him, leading to a moment of confusion for Parker. Battle at Liberty Island. Upon completion, the team headed to the Statue of Liberty, currently undergoing redesign to feature the new Captain America's shield. Prior to the impending battle, Parker contacted the Daily Bugle and spoke with J. Jonah Jameson, openly acknowledging his responsibility for bringing the villains into their universe. He expressed his determination to rectify the mistake and asked the people of New York for their support. Parker emphasized that despite having the power to eliminate the villains, he aimed to help them, guided by the principles instilled by May Parker. Using the Machina de Cadavus as bait, he prepared for the impending confrontation. The three Peter Parkers engaged in lighthearted banter, exchanging stories about the villains they had faced in their adventures. The group of villains eventually arrived, with Electro leading the charge, fully charged by the arc reactor. As the battle unfolded, Parker entrusted the box to Michelle Jones and Ned Leeds to prevent the villains from retrieving it, but the plan went awry as Leeds struggled to close his portal. The Spider-Man entered the fray, with the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man engaging Lizard and the Amazing Spider-Man facing off against Electro. Despite their best efforts, the duo struggled to keep up, prompting Spider-Man to intervene and deliver the cure to their respective villains. However, just as he was about to do so, Sandman ambushed Spider-Man, determined to obtain the box and return to his family. Ignoring Spider-Man's pleas, Sandman continued to resist, preventing Spider-Man from retrieving the cure. In a desperate move, one of Spider-Man's counterparts dropped scaffoldings on Sandman to impede his progress. With the battle tilting in favor of the villains, Spider-Man recognized a significant communication breakdown among the Spider-Men, hindering their coordination. Revealing his past affiliation with the Avengers, a concept unfamiliar to the other two, Spider-Man assumed the role of Field Commander. Designating himself as Peter 1, the eldest Spider-Man as Peter 2, and the Amazing Spider-Man as Peter 3, he emphasized the need for coordinated attacks, trust in their instincts, and a focused approach to take down the villains one by one. With renewed determination, the Spider-Man sprinted towards their objectives, leaping off the scaffolding and swinging together as a unified team. In the midst of the battle, Peter 2 faced off against Sandman, Peter 3 took on Lizard, and Spider-Man found himself ambushed by Electro. Communicating through their earpieces, Spider-Man directed his teammates to prioritize curing Sandman, arranging to meet Peter 2 inside the statue while planning to rendezvous at the top to cure Connors. Despite an ambush by Electro, Spider-Man successfully obtained the antidote from Peter 3 and delivered it to Peter 2, curing Sandman and reverting him from his sand-like state. Seizing the opportunity, Peter 1 and Peter 2 rushed to aid Peter 3, who struggled against the formidable Electro. Recognizing the need to disarm Electro by taking away the arc reactor, Spider-Man devised a plan for Peter 2 to go right and Peter 3 to go left, coordinating a three-way attack. Unfortunately, the plan faltered as Electro, with his overwhelming power, held the other two Spider-Men captive, forcing Spider-Man to retreat back to the scaffolding. Lizard managed to break free from the webbing created by Peter 3 and swiftly retreated through the open portal leading to Midtown School of Science and Technology. Spider-Man, determined to rescue Jones and Leeds, pursued Lizard, urging him to stop. In their confrontation, Lizard seized Spider-Man and hurled him across the laboratory, causing destruction to tables and chairs. Undeterred, Spider-Man chased after Lizard through another portal, returning to the scaffolding. Simultaneously, Electro, now excessively powerful after absorbing the arc reactor's energy, posed a severe threat to Peter 3's life. Their imminent danger was averted with the timely intervention of Dr. Octopus, who initially pretended to align with Electro. Octavius removed Electro's arc reactor and utilized the Electro Cure to drain him of his enhanced powers. As Spider-Man grappled with Lizard, Jones came to his aid, providing the Lizard antidote. This enabled Spider-Man to successfully revert Lizard back to Curt Connors, relieving the tension. The arrival of Doctor Strange through one of Leeds' portals added another layer to the unfolding events. Strange confronted Parker about leaving him dangling over the Grand Canyon for 12 hours. Apologizing, Parker explained that they were close to curing the villains, with only Osborn remaining uncured. When Parker introduced the alternate universe versions to Strange, the Sorcerer acknowledged the surprising accomplishment, but emphasized the urgency of sending them back to their respective universes before irreparable damage occurred. Fighting Green Goblin. Before Doctor Strange could activate the Machina de Cadavus to reverse the spell, Green Goblin made a sudden entrance and attempted to seize it. Despite his efforts, Strange disarmed Green Goblin. Unbeknownst to them, Green Goblin had already placed a pumpkin bomb in the box, which detonated upon destruction, leaving Strange unable to send the villains and other Spider-Men back to their respective timelines. The explosion not only obliterated the scaffolding in the Statue of Liberty, but also sent Michelle Jones plummeting. Spider-Man swiftly dove to rescue her, but Green Goblin intercepted him using the Goblin Glider. Thankfully, Peter 3 came to the rescue. In an intense confrontation, Spider-Man managed to bring down the glider by triggering a pumpkin bomb inside the airborne vehicle, and they safely landed on the shield replica at the Statue of Liberty. After rising to his feet, Green Goblin mocked Spider-Man, claiming he was still too feeble to send him back to his universe to meet his demise. Fueled by anger and hatred for Green Goblin's actions, Spider-Man expressed his desire to be the one to end him. Impressed, Green Goblin praised Spider-Man's intense emotions as they engaged in a brutal battle. An enraged Spider-Man, no longer holding back and consumed by fury, relentlessly beat Green Goblin into submission. In his rage, Peter seized the glider, intending to fatally stab Green Goblin. However, before delivering the lethal blow, Peter 2 intervened, blocking the strike and holding the glider at bay. Spider-Man eventually regained his composure and sanity, realizing that this vengeful path was not in line with May's wishes. Unexpectedly, Green Goblin turned the tables by stabbing Peter 2, causing severe injuries. Taunting Spider-Man, Green Goblin blamed him for May's death, asserting that it was his fault for not eliminating them when the opportunity arose. Amidst Green Goblin's laughter and taunts, Peter 3 tossed Spider-Man the cure for the Green Goblin serum. In retaliation, Spider-Man injected it into Green Goblin, finally liberating Osborn from the grip of the Green Goblin alter ego once and for all. One Way Home. Recognizing Strange's growing inability to contain individuals aware of his identity, Parker decided to propose the use of the runes of Kafkal, but with a modification: erase Parker's existence from the universe's memory entirely. Initially hesitant, Strange considered the consequences of everyone, including Parker's loved ones, losing all memory of him. Despite the personal sacrifice, Parker insisted on the altered casting to ensure the stability of their universe, rectifying the consequences of his initial spell tampering and securing the safe return of the displaced individuals. Expressing gratitude to the friendly neighborhood and Amazing Spider-Men for their assistance, Parker explained the necessity of the spell. When the eldest Spider-Man reminded him of their role, Parker thanked him and shared a farewell hug. In a final private moment with Ned Leeds and Michelle Jones, Parker expressed his appreciation. Before departing from the island, Parker and Jones shared a passionate kiss. The spell was then set in motion, wiping their knowledge and that of the entire universe of Peter Parker. Making sacrifices. In December, Parker visited Peter Pan Donut and Pastry Shop with the intention of reconnecting with Ned Leeds and Michelle Jones, hoping to revive memories of their past relationships. Approaching Jones to order coffee, he introduced himself awkwardly, but she seemed completely oblivious, focusing on greeting Leeds nearby. This realization struck Peter as he understood that she had completely forgotten him. Observing the pair's shared excitement about getting into MIT, Parker recalled his efforts to ensure they all attended the same university to stay connected. As Jones momentarily attended to Leeds' order, Parker noticed a band-aid on her forehead, triggering memories of the physical harm she endured during recent events. A sense of guilt overwhelmed Peter as he grappled with the danger he had inadvertently exposed his closest friends to by involving them in his superhero pursuits. Realizing that rekindling connections with them might divert them from their post-high school aspirations and expose them to potential dangers, Parker made the difficult decision to forgo further conversations with them. Concerned about their safety, he left the cafe after getting his coffee, bidding farewell to Jones. Parker then visited his aunt's gravesite in a local cemetery, mourning her passing. To his surprise, an oblivious Happy Hogan joined him and inquired about Parker's connection to May. Parker explained that he knew her through Spider-Man, and Hogan shared a similar connection. Hogan mentioned the recent loss of his friend Tony Stark, similar to May's passing. In response, Parker assured him that those she aided would carry on her legacy. After exchanging goodbyes with Hogan, Parker wished him well. New independence. Now on his own, Parker embraced full self-sufficiency, but chose to sever connections with allies and fellow superheroes to shield them from potential harm. Gathering personal belongings from the Parker residence, he relocated to an economical apartment, paying homage to the close bond with Ned Leeds and the romantic relationship with Michelle Jones. As tokens of their impact on his life, he kept the Lego minifigure of Emperor Palpatine from the Death Star they built and the coffee cup Jones gifted him, even though they were currently unaware of his existence. In an effort to lead a simpler life, both as a civilian and hero, Parker resumed his pursuit of academic achievement by studying with a borrowed GED textbook. Additionally, he acquired a sewing machine to craft a new Spider-Man suit by hand, drawing inspiration from the original Stark suit and his counterpart's visual designs. One evening, with his phone tapped into the police radio frequency to stay informed about ongoing crime, Parker swiftly received an alert about a situation demanding assistance with a car tow. True to his commitment, Parker promptly left his apartment through the front window and swung through Rockefeller Center, gliding past the Christmas tree and ice rink. He soared with a newfound sense of freedom, liberated from the complexities of juggling two lives, and resumed his heroics as Spider-Man. And that, my friends, is the entire timeline of Spider-Man. For now, anyway. We'll see what happens next, if at all. What do you think? Will we be hearing more from Spider-Man in the MCU anytime soon? What's your favorite Spider-Man movie? What spider suit sticks out to you the most? Make sure you let me know your answers to these questions and anything else you might be thinking about this video down in the comments. Like this video if you liked it and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.